for so long. So
Long time coming.
it was a long time coming. So I was mentally preparing myself for a while. Um, I think, yeah, for me, I think it was more probably beforehand. Actually, I was cold feet's probably not the right words for it, but I guess that would be as close to what I think it felt like. Of like, oh shit, am I actually ready to do this? Because it's just more like you're not sure what is going to change about your
Yeah.
lifestyle. You're not sure what you're going to have to adjust. Um,
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, there'd have to be a mini freak out in there to some degree,
yeah,
right?
definitely. You're just like, oh, shit, am I actually ready to give up the lifestyle that I kind of have? Because there's an element of sacrifice, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Um,
I think that's what a lot of people are worried about in general. Like, oh,
yeah,
life's pretty good.
yeah,
Do I want to make things tough for myself?
yeah,
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 it is a legitimate concern, but at the same time, I'm guessing now that you've got your kid, you're like, that was,
yeah. 100% the trade-offs, 100% worth it.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and like it doesn't change as much as what you think.
I mean, I'm already at the point now where I'm barely going out on the weekends or anything like that. So,
Yeah, that didn't. Yeah, I wasn't doing that anyway, so that wasn't a massive issue. It's probably just sleep. I was pretty worried about sleep.
yeah,
I put sleep high up on my list, and I was, yeah, obviously hearing like all the war stories about sleep. And I just got hell lucky. I just think she's a ripper sleeper, so
yeah, true.
she's been sleeping through pretty consistently.
Elite. So what? So how often were you having to wake up during the night?
Yeah, so first I'm gonna have to say 6 weeks. It might have been longer, but that's 6 weeks is my memory. It was put her down around about I think it was like 6:37 maybe, might have been maybe 7:38. She'd sleep for about anywhere between 4 and 5 hours. So usually one of us would get up at 1 or 2 o'clock, and then it would take about an hour to calm her down, get a little bit of feed into her, and then put her back to bed.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Hour was a good turnaround. That was a win because then she'd probably sleep for another 4 to 5 hours. So you almost had these like 2 4 hour blocks to get your 8 hours in, and then plus the eight in between. And then we kind of alternated. We called it was like the early shift and the late shift. So it
Yeah.
was either you do the middle of the night one, or you do like the early morning one, which would have been like 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. I mean, I'd happily take the early morning one. Let's be honest. I think.
Ah, you'd think so.
Yeah.
No, that one actually sucked. Yeah, we both. I think. Well, I didn't like that one, but I think Elle was okay with that one. I preferred the middle of the night one. Funnily enough.
Really?
Yeah, because it's kind of like when do you want to be interrupted with your sleep? So if you're doing the middle of the night, it was kind of like you get a pretty good 4 hours. You get that kind of like let's say we went to sleep at about 10. Yeah, so you might get like 3 to 4 hours,
Mm.
and then you get up, do your business, and then you could probably go to sleep for another 4 to 5 hours. So
Yeah. True.
because
So,
I didn't need to get up at 5 or 6, I could probably get up at like 8 or 9 maybe. She's gonna go back to bed as well.
true. Plus, I guess you get the added benefit of like you get up and you're like, ooh, delicious. I get a few more hours.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas if you did the later shift, so the early morning one, you really needed to have like a good run. Like you needed to have a good sleep,
Mm.
which you don't always necessarily get because they're in the room with you as well. Well, they don't have to be, but I think early on you'd prefer them to be in the room with
Yeah.
you. Um,
Yeah. It seems like when this newborn, you would just expect it to be kind of like right next to mum
I
and dad.
I think it's more us. Like,
Yeah, that's yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, we're like,
But
oh,
you would though, like in the wild, you're not gonna be like, "Oh, I'll put the baby out." I'm
oh
like,
yeah, man, we're in the wild. They'd co-sleep. They'd be in the bed
yeah,
with you,
yeah.
whereas we had a little bassinet. No, the thing that throws you off is they are super loud. Like even when they're sleeping, just like grunts and like mini cries and stuff like that. Yeah, man, it's way louder than you think it would be. Hey,
True. I mean, when every now and then, if you, I don't have a dog anymore, but like having a dog
yeah,
and it's that snore or like
yeah,
like whimper, or, like have a nightmare almost. You're like,
yeah,
what is going on?
yeah. So we did that. We had the dog in the room as well. So yeah, we were really just
Loading up on the
double
full
down
fam.
on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, going from like pitch black room, the only white noise was the fan, to then like a dog and a baby making noise,
Yeah,
and
bit of an
we
adjustment.
it was a bit of an adjustment, but yeah, oddly enough, it probably goes to show the uh psychophysical connection of like if you think it's going to be shit, it'll be shit. Whereas if you think it's actually not
Mm,
that bad, it's actually not that bad.
true, true, true. And there has to be a lot of that as well as just, every part of the process that you're currently going through, there would be grounds to think this is not that great or God, this is awful.
Yeah,
Or conversely, you do have the option to say, this is
yeah,
wild. How cool is this?
yeah, 100%, man. And I think for us having like there was definitely time where we didn't know this was ever going to happen.
Mm.
Like we weren't sure if we were even going to have children because we couldn't, not because we didn't want to, it's because we couldn't. So yeah, any of those kind of like, oh fuck, this is shit moments. Just get yeah, I can turn them around pretty quickly because like this is where you wanted. This is far better than the alternative.
Yeah, the perspective is pretty wild
Huge.
if that option to you was potentially not possible.
Yeah, 100%.
So you kind of get the lottery ticket and you go, I don't complain about having the problems of all
And
this extra money. It's just
exactly right, man. And yeah, ultimately, she's actually awesome. Like, she sleeps through now. Like sleeps 12 hours through, pretty much.
congrats. But I mean, I actually, it's one of those problems you start to come to as you get of age, of course,
Mm,
where conceiving is harder than one might originally think for many, many couples out there.
yeah.
Was there any, without going into details, I
Oh.
suppose, but like, was there anything that you guys did specifically that you found was like, all right, like I would recommend, going down this kind of avenue if there are potential problems along the way?
Yeah, no, I'm happy to share it because I think it's good. It's better to talk about it than not to talk about
Mm,
it, is what I found. We went through the suppression phase and it just lingers. Just does nothing for you.
yeah.
Talking about it's been way better. And it's easy to talk about on the back end as well, when there's been a bit of success. So, yeah, we tried naturally for like, just trying to think when we first, yeah, let's say like 2 or 3 years, which was probably actually too long to be honest. We did go and see some specialists, some fertility specialists. Um, but my wife had a bit of trouble. She's quite short, and unfortunately, she doesn't meet the BMI cutoff. There's like a cutoff to be able to do IVF.
Right.
Yeah, so she actually had to go through that process. She had to lose like a little, not a little bit of weight, quite a fair bit of weight, to be able to meet the threshold to even be qualified to do IVF, or even just be looked at, to be honest. Um,
I would have thought there'd be like some gray area given, yeah, like it's not a very
no, it's
hardcore measure
no,
for.
no, it's a pretty strong cutoff, and yeah, I guess towards the end, I was challenging the practitioners on it. Like, can you tell me why this cutoff exists? Like,
I
what's
guarantee you it's arbitrary.
no, it is arbitrary. No, you're 100%. You're spot on. It's arbitrary. It's just a number they've decided on, and they've just black and whited it. They haven't grey areaed it at all. There's no like. I guess I could have swallowed it a bit more if it was like, oh look, we've done the research. We've done some meta analysis on it. We've done the RTCs. Um, it's a 70% more likelihood if you're in this kind of BMI bracket that IVF won't take, or the chances of falling pregnant are significantly lower. And that
Yeah,
wasn't even close. I knew it wasn't right because I've got people in my family that are probably a worse BMI, and they've been able to
conceive.
conceive and have a baby, and I don't think they did it with IVF either. So I was like, I know that kind of can't be true a little bit, or at least I've got an N of one. Yeah, can you give me any kind of data? And yeah, the doc could give me nothing. They'd literally just chosen a cutoff point, which was
Mm.
extremely frustrating. And then it was obviously super challenging for my wife because she's taken all the blame.
Yeah, you should feel so guilty and be like,
But what was good is it was also me as well. I had some stuff I needed to work on
mm,
too. My guys weren't as strong as I would have liked them to be, so it was kind of good in that sense. I had some stuff to work on. She had some stuff to work on. Um, so what we did, we actually went down a naturopath route because they were kind of the only ones who were willing to really take us on. So yeah, the fertility specialist was pretty much like you don't meet the cutoff, that's all we can do for you. Like you have to just go and lose weight, and it was that. So it was pretty brutal. We went through two. It just didn't quite have the bedside manner. I'm assuming they're probably pretty good practitioners, like they knew what they were doing and stuff like that. But yeah, just bedside manner was it just wasn't a good connection, and
Sure.
it's super emotional
Yeah.
time as well. Whereas the naturopath was awesome. Like she at least, took a lot of empathy. I think she'd been down like a similar pathway. She had to do some IVF. Um, yeah, and at least was like willing to help us out. So I think we did that for 2 years, and yeah, lots of supplements, lots of gross supplements, a couple of tonics. And
What
look,
was the grossest supplement?
um, look, it wasn't to take it once wasn't that gross, but there was this. It was a powder. Just trying to think what was in the powder. It was like I think it was a multivitamin powder. So it wasn't, and it was like orange flavored. It wasn't that bad. But when you have to take it twice a day every day, you do
Okay.
that for 2 years, you're like, I'm getting a bit over this. I've had enough
Yeah.
of this.
2 years. I'm just thinking 2 years if I had to have like some like I'm just thinking the vitamin C tablets. 2 years of twice a day. Eating those, I think like anything you just be like, oh,
Well,
this is like the worst flavor ever now.
maybe like I think eating or like swallowing, no issues because I've been doing that for years. But it was because it was drink.
Mm.
You had to drink it, and it was quite a lot of powder, so it wasn't like a shot. Like it was a good 200 ml glass to kind of power through. The worst one though was the tonic. I can't remember what it was like bark and like all the naturopaths
Yeah.
they love their like herbicides pretty much. And yeah, it was disgusting. So you kind of like shot this tonic and then you had to chase it down with your other drink. But it was effective. I guess what I bought into it because there was actually test retest. It wasn't like,
Yeah.
oh, we're going to hope this works. It was like, these are the deficits you guys have. These are the specific supplements that hopefully will improve these deficits, and we're going to retest them later down the track. So I bought into it because I loved, it's part of what I do. So I believed it, and it worked. It genuinely did work.
So the naturopath sort of said, look, we did like a bloods for you guys, or what
Yeah,
was the
so many tests. We had bloods. I had like some other, like I had a gut test to test like my microbiome in my
you
gut.
sent a bit of poo into?
I did some poo. That was a tough test. That's a rough one. Yeah, when you have to scoop a bit of poo, and then put that in a container and send that off. That was. I really don't want to do that one again. That one sucked. Even the bowel screening one's better than that.
I've not done the. What's the bowel screening?
Yeah, so like unfortunately, yeah, a girl that I went to high school with, she got diagnosed with like stage 4 bowel cancer.
Oh
She's
shit.
only our age, like 35. And I hadn't spoken to her since I don't think a lot of us. She lives in Sydney now, and yeah, we just found out the news, and yeah, it kind of hit like all of us. We were like, "Fuck, like, geez, that's rough." Um, and yeah, I guess what was good about it, so she's kind of become a bit of an advocate now. She's still
Mm.
fighting the good fight, but yeah, she went on Channel 10. She had a little news story on Channel 10, and she's just trying to advocate for kind of our age bracket because it is a lot more common than what we think because we all just, oh, we're right, we're bulletproof.
Yep.
We don't need it. But yeah, apparently the incidence of bowel cancer for I think people between 30 and 40 years has gone up significantly. Again, because it's just I think it's underscreened. So it worked. Her advocacy worked. Like
So you got it done.
I bought a kit, my wife bought a kit. I'll probably do it at least once or every 2 years.
Mm.
But yeah, that one's pretty straightforward. You just pretty much do your stuff, little swab, put that on a strip, do
Yeah.
that twice, send it off.
Don't have to scoop out a whole piece and.
Don't have to scoop out a whole piece. That was pretty bad. And they only gave me one glove when I had to do it. One glove. It's two hands, man. Like, and you need both hands need to be gloved up.
Yeah, okay. At least they give you a glove, not bobbing for apples.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, so that was a bit rough, but that did help a lot. And then yeah,
Sorry, I was just gonna say. So the testing, the bloods, the
yeah,
stool samples.
yeah,
So from all of that, so there's a lot of tests going on
yeah,
there, and then what this person's sort of mapping out. Look, here are the relationships
yeah,
between these deficits and
yeah,
what could be affecting the lack of
yeah. It was very,
conception.
it
And
was very good in that sense.
okay,
Yeah, could just go like, all right, well, these seem to think that potentially. I think with me as well. Like I didn't necessarily fit the obvious criteria. So I was like, do you smoke? Do you drink? Do you eat poorly? Do you not exercise? So that's where I guess the standard medical practice, like that's all the questions were.
yeah,
They're like, oh, I don't know why you're wrong. Whereas with the naturopath, it was like, well, let's go deeper again. And I think she did a great job of that. And yeah, it was good. We saw some tangible. My test retest was I had to do semen samples. So yeah,
Twice a day, every day for
no, it wasn't that much fun. um, no, it's I hope you don't have to do it. It sounds like it's not that bad, but it's pretty rough.
run us through it because
Yeah,
again, I
no,
have
it's
done it.
good. It's a good experience. Yeah, it's so you have to do it. I did get to. I put that into air quotes. Get to. I did get to do it at home once, but you've got to pretty much do it and then go. Like you've got half an hour to get it to the clinic. And I
All
think
right,
the only
it's an
reason I did it at
emergency.
home is
Yeah.
because it was the very back end of COVID, or like some COVID
Okay.
restrictions. Um, Other than that, you had to go in and you get to go into a room, and the room, I guess it depends on the clinic, but this room wasn't like, it's not inviting, let's put it that way. Originally when I went in, there was magazine pornography,
Right.
and then towards the back end of that got taken away. So I'm not sure, I'm not sure what happened there. But it's pretty much just like a tiny, like a small, like clinical room, like kind of what you've got, probably even smaller than that. A chair with some medical grade uh paper towel, I guess they put on it, and then just you and whatever you want to do.
Is
Um,
there a clock on the wall so you
yeah,
can
there's a
see
clock on
the
there's
time
there's a
ticking
clock
away?
on a wall, and
That's
then there's
wild.
there's this little like window that you it's a two-way door kind of thing. So you can open the latch, put your sample in, close the latch, and then they have one on their side, so they open the latch and take it.
Gotcha.
But yeah, you got to do your stuff. Then you got to put your name on the bottle. You got to put the date on the bottle. You got to put the time on the bottle.
It's just coming out sweating as well.
It's tough. Well, it's a lot of pressure. So
Yeah.
yeah, the first time sucked. Yeah, it was tricky. But I think I ended up doing it 5 or 6 times. So I was getting pretty good at
Good
it
at it?
towards the
Yeah.
end.
Okay.
But the last one there's a lot of pressure on the last one because that was going to be the sample that was going to be used for the embryos. So I was like, this if there is a sample
This
that
is
needs to be
it has
spot
to be
on,
good. Come
has
on.
to be this one. And yeah, I think my results were they shifted a lot. At first it was geez, I can't remember what it was. What do they call it? Fragment damage or something like that. Essentially, yeah, my semen was just getting like oxidized hard. It's just they were just getting way too damaged. So it wasn't even like it was a deeper level test. So it wasn't even like I mean they still did count morphology.
As in they weren't like protected enough by the surrounding
It's
fluid?
it was DNA, DNA. Oh God, it was like DNA fragment damage. Yeah, essentially like they just weren't doing well. They weren't surviving. So I was creating plenty, and then they were just dying way quicker than what they should.
Right.
My life cycle was a lot shorter. So that was the first thing that we had to work on. So it was a lot of heaps of turmeric, just just pumped full of antioxidants.
Right.
That
Okay.
was kind of like my regime, is just go hard on the antioxidants. And it shifted. There was a certain percentage. Can't remember the thresholds now. It's funny how quick like you become so obsessed by it,
Mm.
and then you're just like, nah, that's gone now.
It's very healthy if that's the case, I
That's out
think.
of my brain now,
Yeah.
but I'm pretty sure there was like I want to say 21% was like the threshold. That's like I wanted to get under 21%. I think I was starting off at around like 30 something. Like it was pretty bad.
Yeah.
And then I shifted, I got it all the way down to like 24. I made a pretty significant shift. I just couldn't really get it under 24 after that.
And that is there any suspicion as to why, this thing was happening?
We semi looked into it. Um, I did go and see a urologist just because the fertility specialist recommended it, but I went and saw the urologist and they were like, "Oh no, you don't need to see me. Like you're fine." They thought maybe I had like an excess buildup of like calcium in my I don't know what the anatomical name is, the tubules where the semen like runs through
Okay.
and gets created. They thought maybe that. No, not really. There wasn't really any like, oh yeah, this is why this is the problem. Stress and stuff like that. I don't know.
Were you saunering a lot?
No, no,
Okay.
that was a massive shift, which I've actually stuck to. To be fair, some of the changes were good, and I've stuck to this day. Yeah, so switching from like bonds, probably not jocks, but shorts to then straight up boxes.
More like airflow
Yeah,
or
more airflow. It's just heat. That was the biggest change. So I'm still to this day. Um, what else?
not rocking commando? That wasn't advised.
Oh, I mean, you can. No, you can. I could have gone commando. I wanted a little bit of just something,
Yeah.
a little bit of a protective barrier between me and my shorts.
I mean, I'm a step one man, but I'm guessing that it would hold in quite a bit of heat. They're like bambooies, but so far as I know, I believe at least, someone was it's one of those videos you watch where someone was saying, "Oh, look, bamboo material might not be as good as what you think because it has to be there's a lot of sort of synthetic sort of
Yeah,
processes that go into making that
yeah.
a usable
I did
material."
try a step one, um, but I actually didn't find them that comfortable, to be honest.
Yeah, it wasn't for you.
No, and I did find though, yeah, we're pretty hot.
I went from like bonds
Yeah,
to step one, and I always found bonds just constantly like riding up or
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
then I did the step one. I was like, no more ride up. I was like, all right, I'm good.
yeah,
That's all I need. But
yeah.
I'm suspicious about the heat.
Maybe, but again, that's only a problem if it's a problem.
But yeah, 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 yeah.
For me, it was we were just trying everything. That was kind of the thing. It was like let's just have a crack at everything, and we did. Yeah, and like I said, it made a bit of a shift. I didn't quite get there in the end, and yeah, there was a couple of different fluctuations. Like sometimes I could get the DNA fragmentation down. Like I could get a win there, but then like all of a sudden my count would be low. So then we'd work on that, and then some days my count would be really good, but then my morphology would be poor. So morphology, my understanding is like the type of sperm that you have. So you have different types of like shapes. They're not all just like the head and the tail. Some have two-headed, some are like two-tailed, some have some different shapes, which is I found really interesting. What was more interesting though was you only actually have 4% of a single sample is actually viable. So out of the couple of million that you produce, only like 400,000, or not even that. I think it's like 40,000 are good to go. So 4% was the cutoff as well.
So 4% of what
You
was
want,
in that entire sample could
yeah,
possibly get like penetrate an egg
yeah, is
and
actually a viable source.
yeah, right. Okay.
So that's why number is kind of important, because obviously the higher the number, even if it's 4%, you've still got more guys to have a crack at it. So my number was like relatively okay, but then my morphology was only like 2%. So my lottery was just dwindling.
Yeah. Okay. So it made it significant. Like that's a lot more difficult, right?
Yeah.
Right. So you by the end of all this stuff though, were you getting closer back to that 4% if you were at 2%
No,
or
that was the funny thing is like some things would improve and then some things wouldn't. So like I think even the final sample wasn't that great. Um, but I think our odds increased because we didn't even do IVF, we did ICSI. So, which I can't remember what ICSI stands for, but IVF is basically just like put all the eggs in a petri dish, put all the sperm in a petri dish, and then just see what happens.
right?
ICSI is like get one sperm and one egg and put those two together and do that a couple of times. There's a lot more specific in that sense, but I have a feeling it has some downsides to it as well.
Less of a like survival of the
I
fittest.
think so, yeah, I think so. But again, we got super fortunate. Like we're super grateful for the process because it's IVF's only like a 40% chance that it actually takes. So two ways to look at it. You can either look at it as like it's only 40%, or for me, it was like because actually I went in. I remember when the doc told us, I was thinking like 20 or 25% in my head. Said here 40. I actually became really hopeful, and I was like, well, that means 4 out of 10. That means 4 people get to have a kid out of 10.
Hmm.
I'm okay with that. That's better than zero right now because
Yeah.
right now it's 100% zero.
Yeah, and that's 4 more people than 0 as well.
Exactly
Yeah.
right. So I was like, I can hold on to that. So yeah, you kind of do the process and then you get, my wife doesn't like this analogy, but I think it has worked for everyone else. I saw it as it was like a bit of a game. It was like a level system,
Hmm.
like certain stages you had to get through. It's not just cool, we're doing IVF, click your fingers and then happy days we got a baby. It was like there was multiple, like you do a test, you do something, like I mean, even the first one is like egg retrieval. So my wife needs to go under. They need to do the retrieval. You got to find eggs. You got to have enough eggs.
It's crazy in of itself, even the
Yep.
retrieval side of things.
Yep. 100%.
How much do they take out? Do you know?
They get as many as they can. So even prior to that, like you're loaded up on hormones. So there was a pretty stringent hormone routine. I can't remember exactly what the hormones are. You got to hit the right hormone at the right time, obviously the right dosage. She was having to go up to, so like I said, we live in Rockingham, and the place we were going to was in Subiaco. She had to be there 3 times a week to get bloods done
Wow.
because those bloods determine when to do the next shot and what shot to do. Because there's obviously different times. It needs to be estrogen's higher versus progesterone's higher. So you got to get that balance right. And then there was a trigger shot. I can't remember exactly when the trigger shot is. The trigger shot is either you need to take that and then get your eggs collected, or if that was, yeah, no, I think that's what that was. That was trigger shot because it's that one was a like an egg stimulating hormone. So even
Yeah.
then, if that got overshot, that becomes super dangerous as well because it's a hyper stimulant to your ovaries.
Dangerous in what sense?
Um, Look, I can't remember exactly, but
Sure.
it was deadly. It was like dangerous enough that they really had to pay attention to it.
Wow. Okay.
I
So it's
can't
a
remember.
lot.
I can't remember why, but it was like you had to get through that, and then once you've done that, then you get to go do the egg collection. I do my final semen sample, and they've got to put them together, and then there's a incubation period, which I think it was like 3 or 4 days. So you basically now you're just sitting there to see the viability. Like this is like not even stage one. I don't know, stage three by now, but you're like, is this gonna work? And then they give you a grading system, which I think is kind of cool. So you get graded on the quality of the exterior of the embryo, and the interior. So it's like an A, B, C. A is obviously better, C is worse, and it's just the viability of the embryo basically. And I think we were dealing with, I think we had 5 eggs. It's not a lot. I think my wife produced 6, and the lady next to her had like 35.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah. So we weren't working with a hell of a lot. Um, but I think we ended up with 4 or like 3 AAs, so really good quality, and then an AB. And then obviously one has now, yeah, become my daughter
Taken. Yeah.
after all that
Crazy.
years. Crazy. And then the other 3 we've got frozen to use when we're ready to go again.
So that's sort of the idea is you get as many as you can, as high quality as you can,
Yeah.
and then if it was C, would that no longer be viable or
I don't know. I don't
okay,
know. We were fortunate enough not to
have
have
to
to deal with a C, but yeah, my assumption is that yeah, I think anything less than a B you wouldn't want.
why not? So you've got a bunch of A's, so they will basically freeze any ones they're not going to use. They'll just take a random one of the A's.
Yeah.
You don't get to choose like, all right, between those four, which one do you like the look of?
Not at this stage, no. But,
Okay.
well, not that I can remember. Maybe we did. No, I don't think so. And then there's insemination. So then it's actually got to be put in.
She's put under again.
No, no,
Okay.
no. I got to be there for that one as well. No, it's pretty straightforward that
Mm.
one. That's I can't even. I want to say turkey baster, but it wouldn't have been a turkey baster. It would have
Not
been.
dissimilar though.
Oh yeah, I reckon it would have been somewhere along those lines.
So wild.
Because even then, it's got to take. So because we didn't necessarily know why we couldn't fall pregnant.
Right.
There was a lot of symptoms, so we could measure all the symptoms, but we didn't know where the things were falling down, and that's like credit to the practitioner that we worked with. She was much better bedside manner. I think she'd also had like very similar experiences, like she'd gone through the process herself. Phenomenal practitioner, great lady as well. Um, Very good at just setting expectations. Like, hey guys, there's only 40% chance. In my experience, first time almost never takes. So all we're doing is we're doing it just to see because it'll give us more information. Wherever it fails, we'll have a better idea of what to target.
What's her name?
Tamara,
I was gonna say we always do a little shout out in the notes.
we should do a shout out. I
Right, I'll put it in the little notes.
can't remember her last name. I'm pretty sure it was Tamara. Tamara Hunter. There you go. Tamara Hunter.
There you go.
Dr. Hunter. Yeah. No, she was awesome. Um, So yeah, she didn't give us. It was a good thing she didn't give us too much hope.
Yeah,
She
yeah, yeah.
really set
Yeah.
out some really realistic expectations,
Expectations.
which
Yeah.
was good. And we'd heard like, you'd usually have to do multiple rounds before. I mean, we've heard people doing 10 times before it hits. Um, and we're willing to go through a bit of a process, I guess. But yeah, it was good. This first time we were just like, well, let's just see what happens. Um,
So how long? So you wait 3 days for to figure out like what's the grade of the eggs, right? Then you come back, and
yes,
roughly they go, cool, you've got
yes,
four A's and a B and a C or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
And then after that, how quickly is it like, all right, cool, let's put one in?
I can't remember. It might be like a week or two
I
to
guess
put.
relatively short order.
It's a short turnaround. Might
Yeah.
even be quicker than that. I can't. Might have been the next week. I can't 100% remember. But then from there, you're meant to wait 2 weeks because you got to see if it's one going to actually take on the lining.
Hmm.
So I think, yeah,
And but because I'm guessing again, you have to wait for your partner to be like in the right zone or with the right
so that
hormones
that
again,
so that timing's already like kind of
dialed in.
yeah, exactly dialed
Okay.
in. And I'm gonna guess she's probably still doing some shots at this stage. Like she's probably taking something to increase the uterine wall
Yeah.
viability. Um, yeah, no doubt that's what she would have been doing. And then you're just waiting for it to get taken, and they tell you not to test. Like, don't do your own personal test. But my wife could not help it. Mate. She was like, she tested like 7 times. She couldn't help herself, and they were coming back positive every time. But the reason you don't do it is just in case it's a false positive.
Yeah.
And look, I guess 7 times you are getting a little bit more hopeful, but for me, and this is how I kind of approached it. And I don't know if it's necessarily the healthiest way to do it. Definitely I just kept my expectations so low because then at least it's the reason I say it's maybe not healthy is because I think hope's a really powerful thing. I
Mm.
think it's a powerful emotion. And I think it's there for a reason. But I just didn't want to rely on it because I just knew it'd crush me if it went the wrong way.
Yeah.
So just setting the bar super low meant that every kind of stage that we, passed and won was like a
Little victory.
little victory, little dopamine hit, and that's why you keep playing, right?
Yep.
Um, so yeah, we're kind of sitting there like, oh, maybe, but I'm still thinking like,
How
don't,
soon? How soon after is she testing herself?
like,
Days, week?
yeah, like
Within.
3 days, like 3 days.
Okay.
You meant to wait 2 weeks, and I think it was like 3 days before she did the first one, and then it was like almost every single day for the next,
Just to
8 or 9 days.
yeah.
Um, and then I think she goes and
You must have been getting a little bit excited though as well, or you were really still
I was
managing to
just
keep it under
trying my
control.
best to suppress that
Yeah. Okay.
excitement.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was. I was getting more hopeful and thinking, oh
In
shit,
those quiet moments, you're like, "Oh my god, no way!" But then you're like,
yeah,
Just
just
chill."
chill, just in
Yeah.
case. Like it is, the doctor specifically said that for a reason. My wife, on the other hand, was just like,
Making
just
plans.
riding with it.
Yeah.
Hey, she was going. She was like, "Yeah, this is awesome. It's gonna happen." I was like, "No, no, no. Wait a second." Um, and then yeah, I think she would have had to gone in for like an actual proper blood test, and then I think you have to wait. I think there's like a couple of day turnaround there. So your blood test is to confirm 100%.
Just tapping your
We're
fingers for a
pregnant.
couple of
And it's
days.
rough. It's so rough. And my wife, yeah, she just had to distract herself hard. And I think she went out and she was, oh, no, it might not even be a couple of days. It might be the day now that I think about it. Yeah, because she would have gone and done the blood test in the morning. And then, yeah, I think they just call you some time later that day once they've done the test. So she was like, oh, I need to distract myself. Didn't want to come home. I was working from home that day. And I think she went to the shopping centre and was in Cotton On, buying something or doing something. And yeah, she got the call. I don't think she answered the first time because she was like, "Oh shit, am I in the right place to receive this news?" Also, I think she wanted to. I think they said they were going to call us at 12, and it was like 11:30 or something like that. So I think she was actually going to come home, and then we were going to answer the phone together. So she wasn't expecting the call. She
Yeah.
got the call, and they, told her the good news, and then she held off. And I think she went back into Cotton On and bought like a little onesie,
Oh yeah.
which was awesome. And then
That's so cute.
it's so cute. And then yeah, she came home, and I was on a phone call. I was talking to someone, either my business partner or someone, because it wasn't time yet. So I
Mhm.
assumed the call hadn't happened. And she's coming home and she's like kind of staring at me like, hey, I'm home. I'm like, all right, no worries. And I think my call went for like another half an hour. She's just sitting there just like stewing, like hating on me. And then eventually yeah, obviously ended the call, and then she just kind of came around the corner and had the little
Onesie.
baby held up, and yeah, it was such a special moment. Even then, though, if I reflect back, I still didn't like. I was happy, but I wasn't.
Giving it everything.
Yeah, I wasn't
Yeah.
giving it everything. I was still suppressing, like, because even from then, the pregnancy wasn't like. It would have been nicer to be more relaxed about it, and I think ignorance is bliss in those scenarios.
Okay. Yeah.
Because for me, it was like this. It was this hard to get here. Things can still go wrong,
Yeah.
you know. Um, Look, I'm probably slightly more pessimistic. I would like to call myself a realist, but I probably am pessimistic at times. And I think I just as a protective mechanism. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
I try and be optimistic, but shit things happen, and you got to be able to deal with shit things. So I was happy, but I wasn't ecstatic. I was
Sure.
like, this
You're
is
still
awesome.
in. You're still in the game as well. You're still
We're still
going.
playing, man. Like,
You still got
still don't have a
first
baby.
trimester. Still,
Exactly
you
right.
know.
Like, you got to get through those first 12 weeks. There's the genetic testing you got to go through. I don't think we'd had the results back from that just yet.
Was that to ensure that they got the right ones for you, or just for making
No,
sure that it
so
was not going to have like some
yeah,
big disorder
correct. So I
condition?
think there was two from memory. There was one before you even go through the process to make sure that there's nothing. I think it's a carrier thing, right? And I think you have to have like both parents have to be carriers for the odds to increase significantly.
Yeah,
If one's got it and the other one doesn't,
you're fine.
that was fine. I didn't screen for anything, so I was good. And I think my wife screened for a couple of things, but because we weren't both carriers, the odds of that were pretty low. And then I'm pretty sure you do another one. Like that first one does like I think over 100 genetic disorders, and then the second one is more specific, and I think that's more like your probably Down syndrome. I want to say cerebral palsy, maybe cystic fibrosis, like those type of bigger, more common genetic disorders was the second
Yeah,
one.
cerebral, I believe, is just from usually some sort of brain injury. I
So
don't.
maybe not cerebral palsy,
Yeah,
maybe it was
but
cystic
the
fibrosis.
cystic, I would say for sure. The down, but yeah, I wonder for one of those as well. Is there a so they do that testing, they let you know, and then is it sort of them just giving you the option at that point, being like, do you want to continue
Yeah,
or not? Yeah, okay,
yeah. I think that's what that process is.
sure.
So that one's I think you go and you do the bloods, and that one's you just don't want to hear from them.
Mm,
Like it gets to
true.
you just don't want a phone call. So there's like a certain time period, and they're like, if you haven't heard from us from this time, just assume it's all good. So you're kind of waiting for that, and I think
Any
that
phone call, just
yeah, pretty much. I think that's like 10 weeks. Like that's the
yeah,
turnaround on that. So you can wait first 10 weeks, and then you got the 12 week kind of, which is your first trimester, and that's when you can, obviously go and get gender. I don't think you do gender testing, but they can do ultrasounds and stuff like that.
yeah.
We didn't want to find out. We wanted it to be a surprise on the day, but unfortunately, my we obviously went and had an ultrasound, and we could the gender was known, and I think my wife was her iron levels were going down, so I think she wanted to check her file to see what they were, and was curious like, oh, where's my iron at, or why are they going down? And I think when she went to look in the file, it had uh, fetal gender, and she's seen the fetal gender, so I accidentally found out. And then she's like come out into the kitchen and said, "Oh my god, I know what we're having," and I was like, "Well, don't tell me," as if I was expecting her to keep that a secret for 28 weeks or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, no
But
chance.
and so I was like, "Okay, no, that's fair enough." But you have to you have to do a gender reveal for me then.
Okay,
You have
yeah.
to find a way. So I think she went out to the shops and bought. I think she bought a shirt that said, "Daddy's little girl" on it or something like that,
Yeah, cute.
and gave that to me. So that was all right.
Oh, nice.
I was stoked because not that there was a preference, but I was hoping to have a little girl. I don't
Yeah,
know why.
nice.
I just feel I don't know. I really just wanted to raise a little girl.
Yeah,
Um, Little boy actually intimidates me a little bit.
yeah, bit harder.
As a male, I don't know. It's just like the pressure to get that right was a bit higher. I think
Yeah, I get
just for
that.
me.
I get that. I mean, I think as well that there's something about, there seems to be a natural affinity as well between like sons and mums,
Mm,
daughters and dads.
Dads, yeah.
Like I think there is a bit of a natural
Yeah,
affinity as you get older
yeah,
that sons protect, like just look after mum, and
yeah,
like daughters tend to dad a little bit more.
yeah,
So I think there is a little bit of that as well. But I mean, I've always sort of said like, if you get a girl, I'd be buzzing.
yeah, yeah.
No worries with that.
Just love the idea of being a girl dad, which is awesome. And look, if we get the chance to have another one, I don't mind either way.
Yeah, it's one of those. Who
Yeah.
cares?
But the first one, I was like, because it could be one and done for us, to be honest. Like
Yeah.
we want to have more children, but yeah, we kind of go back into that 40% odds group, and we just consider ourselves extremely lucky that first time around. But it doesn't mean that it's going to be. It's going to be.
So again, for someone that's maybe going down this or looking at an avenue like this,
Mm.
so first steps you think might be helpful would be speaking with someone like a
Yeah,
naturopath, for instance.
long-winded way to answer your question,
Yeah.
your original actual
Well, to
question.
be fair, I think it's good walking through the story a little bit because,
Yeah,
I think the nitty gritty is when a little bit of that's revealed, that provides a lot of uh, comfort, and it takes away a lot of the sort of the threat that people have
agreed.
about a lot of this stuff. So,
Yeah. That's such a good point. It was definitely taboo for me for a while. I'll admit I had my head in the sand for at least the first 2 years. Hey, at least probably longer. Yeah, I was still thinking, no, it's just gonna happen.
yeah.
Like it's just taking a little bit longer. But nah, that was a silly way to look at it. Like if it doesn't, my advice would be don't freak out at 3 months. That's silly. Don't freak out at 6 months. That's silly. A year, you wouldn't freak out, but you're like, let's go and see someone.
Mhm.
First place would be a fertility specialist, 100%. That's you, because if you don't have to go through the other rigmarole, don't. Just go and see the specialist, because then you can start the process a lot faster. We obviously had to take a different route. We did the specialist. That wasn't going to be the line of course for us straight away because we had to go and sort some other stuff out. That's when we went to the naturopath. Not saying I wouldn't go to the naturopath, but we kind of just
You're forced into it a bit.
for it's probably the controllables, right? Like when you don't have control, that's when the most amount of stress occurs, right? That's a that's a lot of life. That's a life thing, right? So you're just trying to find things that you can control. So if it is, just go and see the naturopath, and then at least that's something, and you feel like you're pushing the needle forward, right? You feel like you're at least being proactive, trying to do the right thing and
Mm.
make it a better chance. So yeah, that's probably why I couldn't give you a direct answer because I think it's so unique and can change for so many different people. Some people will follow our path, some people won't. But if it was smooth as it can be, yeah, you go and see your specialist first, and then really you need an accurate diagnosis. That's what you need to know. You need to at least be in the ballpark of what might be causing the infertility. That's probably pretty in like for me was also a bit of a like a sticky word. It was a bit of a yucky word, like infertile. When you
Mm.
think of infertile, you're like, it's emasculating. You're not a man.
Yeah, yeah.
You can't do the thing that you're meant to be on the earth to do. So it was a bit. It was the thing that I had to overcome.
The one
What's
thing
going on?
all your ancestors managed to pull off.
Yeah, yeah. But then because I guess within our group, like it just wasn't like it was really only us going through this situation, and then all my other mates are having kids and stuff like that. So that was shit because it was very hard to be happy for others.
Mm.
You're as happy as you can be, but you're still just disappointed. And there was plenty of events that we just didn't go to because it was just like why would you go to it if you're not in the right headspace if you're not going to be really present and just genuinely happy for the people that you love.
Mm.
Yeah, that was tough.
So with this whole process as well, I can't imagine it's overly cheap going through, even the naturopath aside,
Yeah,
and however many appointments and bloods, etc.
yeah.
All these things sort of stack up quite a bit. What is it roughly cost wise, if you recall, about even like naturopath aside for
Mm.
just having one go at
Yeah.
implanting?
No, that is definitely it's a significant decision that you need to make. For me, the way I viewed it was it's either going to be the best investment I've ever made and the money doesn't matter at all, or fuck, that's a lot of money to get an extremely disappointing result. There is a fair bit of help. So to subsidize, like if you're the at least the female or the mother, to be should get full private health. Like max that out. Dad doesn't matter so much. But she's going to have to go through a lot of appointments. So that's definitely worth getting some subsidy there. Medicare does also cover quite a fair bit of it. So the combination between Medicare and private health, I think all up, you're probably looking at about 12 grand.
Okay.
And then out of pockets, probably closer to like 4 or 5. So you get a fair bit back.
4 or 5 grand to have a 40% chance at least is, I think, pretty reasonable. Can't get a
That's once.
good car for that.
When you look at it like once, yeah. But if you had to do it
Sure.
multiple times, that's when you're like,
Mm.
shit, like how many goes can we actually have at this? And that, I think financially for us, it wasn't really, that was probably never going to be the issue. I would make that work regardless. But it's probably emotional because that's the bigger turmoil. I think like how many times do you want to go through this game and tip of the hat to the people that do it,
Again and again, yeah.
again and again, and just I think at that stage you just find the money you just find you just make that work. You just go without other things. But to me it would be the emotional cost would be way higher.
Had you guys sort of talked about that of being like, okay, we do have 4 or 5, and or it's sort of you don't plan too far ahead?
No, you don't. I think we probably had two in mind at least because of the doc saying like, oh, this first one's probably going to be experimental. So I think two. I think we were at least willing to do because you just don't know how you're going to react.
Mm.
So I think for us anyway, that would probably definitely for others, it would be the financial would be the limiting factor. Um,
The water. Well, I certainly appreciate as well sharing a little
yeah.
bit about that. Not what we originally thought we were going to chat about,
Ah.
but it's funny again. This sort of stuff, even with myself now being 32,
Mm,
it's now being much more. Well, it's in the conversation around the people that I spend time with, and so
yeah.
I think it is one of those things that it's valuable to try and get a bit of an insight and to just demystify and go, look, as you say, we're very good at avoiding our problems or certain problems.
Yeah.
This is I work as a physio. The vast
Yeah.
majority of people ignore their problems for such a long time that they eventually go, okay, now I have to do something. And just like your friend who sort of promoted screening for your bowels and things like
Yeah.
that, I think it just provides a little bit of awareness for people to go, okay, all right, it's been a year. I've heard this, and it's a good time to go get it checked out.
Don't just assume.
Yeah,
Yeah. Don't just assume. I mean, that was us. Like we got married when we were 29. And we kind of loosely were like, nah, yeah, let's crack in. Let's let's try. Um, yeah, it's a lot more common than what I thought.
mm,
When you get into the space, you realize like, oh no, we're actually not as alone as what I originally thought. And yeah, it's actually a bit scary how common it is. Definitely suggests that
something.
there's something going on. Yeah.
Back into what we were going to talk about originally as well. Perhaps you'd like to give a little bit of a background on, I guess,
Yeah.
sort of your workplace and what you do
Mm.
for anyone listening.
Yeah, so I'm one of the directors at Ludus Sports Performance, co-director with my other director, Tom Newman. We've been running since 2015.
Damn.
Yeah, I think that's when we
Decade.
established. Yeah, 2015. So yeah, we've done a pretty good job to keep a business afloat. I think
Yeah,
there's
all
a
through that and
there's a
COVID, everything else.
yeah there's a pretty high churn opening a business, and you can see why. And then I think for every year that you stay on, the margin or the percentage becomes smaller and smaller. So to get into that, I would still call us, we're in that kind of, maybe not infancy stage, but we're still in that kind of growth phase. Like
Yeah.
we've still got a long way to go, especially if you compare it to, companies that have been around for 50, 60, 70, 80 years. We've still got plenty to do, which is cool.
What made you guys open this in the first place?
Yeah, so I graduated. I graduated with a graduate diploma of exercise physiology in 2014, um, at from Notre Dame. I didn't want to do ex-phys, funnily enough. I got coerced into doing ex-phys. No, I always wanted to work with athletes. I wanted to be a strength conditioning coach
Yep.
for since I was probably, I don't know, 18 or 19. Wanted to work with athletes in some kind of capacity. Oh, yeah, I guess at that stage, really the only landscape was team sports, was professional. Like that was really the only place you could go to work as a strength and conditioning coach with athletes. Um, and I don't know, because I think there's a couple of us kind of started around that time, that I can notice, like in Australia at least anyway. So maybe just like more access to other coaches from around the world. I'd say the US definitely has, a big impact on the private sector over here because I think of guys like Mike Boyle and maybe Joe DeFranco and Eric Cressy, those kind of guys who were running like, private facilities in America and doing quite well from it. Podcasts were becoming a lot more popular. It was just a lot more accessible. And then I think if you see others doing it, it gives you the belief that, oh, maybe we could do it as well.
Yep.
Um, yeah, and I guess what we saw was, yeah, there really isn't any access to that kind of like, athletic training or conditioning or support unless you make it to the professional level. So we were like, man, we're going to bridge the gap because I reckon there's some people missing out just because they don't have access to it. Um, it was kind of, you're really only getting there through talent alone. And then obviously I'd say the professional sports, it's definitely benefited them. You've got a lot more people coming through that can compete into that market now. And at very least, like for us, I think it's always been about the values and the mentality and the mindset rather than the actual like the end result of, making pro sport or like, for example, it's for us, it's about coaching the ambition. If someone just wants to be the best amateur footballer they can be, 100%, we'll jump on board with that. We'll get around that. That's for us, that's more important.
So you guys are pretty open to different sports essentially
Yeah,
for whatever someone's got their keen eye on,
yeah.
and then so let's just say I am that footballer.
Mm.
How does the process work of me coming to work with you guys?
What are you trying to get to? Would be my
So,
question.
like, if I'm trying to be a better footballer,
Yep.
right? So I must have some goals in mind, like, or
Mm.
at least some belief that I need to develop in certain
Yeah.
areas. So, what's the process that you guys sort of take me through in order to try and
Yeah.
figure out what those one, obviously figure out what the goals are precisely and like how
Yep.
to get towards them? Is
Yeah.
there a bit of a process that you guys go through?
Yeah, 100%. I guess the first thing is that's why, your branding's so important. Like if you're someone that's, interested in improving your speed, your agility, your conditioning, your strength, um, hopefully you're looking around the social media traps, you're looking around the Googles and stuff like that, and then our name kind of pops up. So that'd be your first entry point. I'd say our main one is, yeah, just Google searching seems to be our biggest lead magnet. We don't even do any Facebook advertising at the moment. We will, but
Sorry, I mean, like if I already know you
yeah,
guys.
I'm setting it up.
Oh,
I'm
okay,
setting it
gotcha,
up.
gotcha.
So I'm setting up because I think that's an important distinction, right? If you're part of a semi-professional team or a professional team, those things are given to you,
Yeah,
and I think there is an important distinction here because, like, I worked in both. I've worked in the semi-professional and professional environments, and some athletes take full advantage of it. Some people take it for granted. So private sector is good because there's a value now attached to it, whether it's monetary, which it is. Then there's a little bit more respect put on it. There's um,
skin in the game.
skin in the game. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. So yeah, if you find us and you can kind of see, what we offer, how we operate. Typically, there's like a lead form submitted, so you can just reach out to us that way. That seems to be the easiest way to reach out, and then I'll get the lead come through, and then I'll give that person a call. And yeah, essentially, what I'm trying to do is just get a better idea of what you're after. What are your goals? But not just your external goals. Like I want to know your deeper drivers. Like what's really motivating you internally, and then what are some of the, I guess, psychosocial elements to it as well. Like why are you doing this? So if you're a youth athlete, as much as everyone's like, oh, I'm just doing it for myself, social creatures. It's never just yourself. You're doing it to make a team. Well, who do you need to impress to get to the team? Probably the head coach or the coaches. Like, and that's okay. So I don't have an issue with that. That's what you're meant to do. Like if you have been given feedback around like you're not fit enough or you're not fast enough or you're not explosive enough, and you go away and you seek services, similar to ours, and go and work and put the work in, and then go back and you show that you've changed. Look, you still might not even be the fastest, but the coach can see that you've changed. You are not as slow as what you once were. That's going to make a pretty big impact on their decision making, whether you're going to be in the team or not. So to me, I think that's what I'm trying to find out, because if we're talking about motivations, that's going to be the deeper. That's going to be way more motivating than just like getting faster.
Is that what you see a lot of people coming in to use your guys' services? Is a lot of people looking to, as you say, bridge the gap of going, I'm not quite where I need to be in order to get into whether it be a team or a certain
Yeah.
position,
Yeah.
and so I'm going to go out of my way to get that, make that happen?
It's a mix. It's not just that. That's Yes, that comes up a little bit. Sometimes it's just some people are already good and want to just get better. Um, yeah, others there is a significant deficit, and maybe they're relatively talented at the sport, but they actually lack the physical capacities. Um, we also have another pathway, which is what we call our reconditioning pathway. So this might be an athlete who's been injured and is trying to get back to performance. So we do a lot through that as well. Yeah,
Is there anyone that comes in that's non-athlete, or it's very much athlete population?
yeah. So when we first started out, like any business, you gotta keep the doors open. Um, yeah, look, we've kept it relatively performance orientated the whole way through. The population didn't matter as much. It was like, you could be like, we've done powerlifters and weightlifters in the past. It was pretty much as long as you had a goal, like a more serious goal, we were happy to work with you. But then in probably 2022, we changed our model, we changed our business model, and we decided to double down more on the sports person and athlete population, which yeah, has been much better. Not that we don't want to work with general pops. It's just, if you don't want to dilute the experience of both.
Yeah,
Like, if I'm an athlete, do I necessarily want to be training next to, a mum of three? I'm a mum of three. Do I necessarily want to be training next to an athlete?
yep.
It's not like they can't get along. They can. And to be fair, like, we we sublease our facility to an exercise physiology clinic, Bloom Allied Health, and their population is the older population, and they're all special populations as well: cancer, diabetes, um, etc. And it seems to work pretty good. Funnily enough,
Yep,
we're up one end, they're up the other end, like as in of a spectrum.
yep,
Seems to work pretty well, but I think also because they do their thing and we do our thing,
yep.
I think you get the best results for your people. Just I don't know, we're not become disillusioned, but you just become, if you're if you get to work with someone who's trying to make the AFL, and then the another person that you're working with is just trying to lose weight, like,
Yeah, it's a big different.
it's a
It's a
big
big
difference.
difference.
Yeah. And I just like I have nothing against it. I just love the fact if someone is like, I just want to help someone get jacked, or I just want to help someone lose weight. Cool, just do that then.
Yeah.
Just do that. Just be the best at that.
I think most people look for those types of services now as well. If you're just someone that is in general pop, you're typically not going to want to go to something that is geared a bit more towards performance, because
Probably
it's
not.
it's not exactly where you think, all right, this is sort of where I'm fitting right now. And so not only that, but like again in the physio world or in the healthcare world, you don't just go to a surgeon who's good at all surgeries. You go to the head surgeon, you go to the hand surgeon.
Yeah.
Like that, you do create the niche yourself as well, because that's the only way that you can get really good at it.
Yeah.
Plus, then for yourself as well, as you said, you would get far more enjoyment, or you've always wanted to work with
Yeah.
athletes and strength and conditioning, right?
Yeah.
So, sort of being true to that mission is
Yes.
going to mean that your business is going to be there for a lot longer in future, and you're going to enjoy,
Yeah.
as that grows as well.
100%. I think you just got to know where your passions lie. Like, I love watching the guys at Bloom do their stuff. Like I said, I did XFiz. I never wanted to do XFiz, and I'm glad I didn't do it, because I don't reckon I'd be that much drop at it. I could do it, but I wouldn't love it. And just seeing what those like, the level of empathy just goes up tenfold. Just the level of care and just patience. Just they're so good at what they do. And I'm like, no. I want to see how far someone can go. I want to see how much someone can lift. Like I want to see significant performance shifts. And it's not like you're not trying to do that, with a special population. The way I've always viewed it as a continuum, right? Like on a bigger scale, up one end you've got death, like you're dead,
Mhm.
and up the other end you've got absolute peak performance. And then realistically, we all just fit somewhere along that continuum. And in the middle is actually probably health.
You're right. Yeah.
I don't think performance training is necessarily the healthiest thing.
Oh, yeah. Say a bit more about that. Why
Yeah.
do you say that?
My reason for that is if playing sport was healthy, you wouldn't need to retire from sport.
Okay.
I wouldn't need to retire from sport at 30 with arthritic knees.
Would you include that? So in that use case, so high performance, you're suggesting that high performance, not necessarily just the aging process, would be a contributor to uh, unhealth,
Yes.
like, or to some
Yeah, because
acceleration of poor health.
you have to push. And you're doing some pretty wild things. Like, think about some of the sports that are out. Rugby. Like, you reckon we're meant to be doing that?
They take some big hits.
MMA.
Yeah,
You reckon we're meant to be doing that?
yeah.
No, we're not meant to be doing those things.
We've always done it, but yeah,
We have
not
always
as
done it, but it doesn't mean you're meant to do it. Like, I don't know. You would know, man. Like, you've worked with those people. You can't say that they're healthy people
yeah,
in a traditional sense of like, I'm trying to live as long as possible
yeah,
and as well as
yeah,
possible.
yeah. Correct.
We
Yeah,
know that someone, if it was a fighter, they're going to have brain damage.
yeah,
I'm sorry to say that, but you get hit in the head
yeah.
a lot.
Yeah, if your goal is longevity and
Yeah.
health optimization, yeah, it's not a great game at all for you.
Don't play sport. Maybe don't play sport at a very high level anyway. T-
Contact sport,
Contact sport in particular, like
table tennis.
that's what I was thinking. Like maybe table tennis, but even then, the higher you go, like the more you have to push your body because you have to become fitter, faster,
Yeah.
stronger, and you can roll an ankle, and you can still hurt
Mm.
yourself. That's the thing. Like the analogy I've always used is it's like Formula One, right? Like Formula One is the pinnacle of motorsport, right? And essentially everything's just trickled down. So like seatbelts, they didn't exist until they came into Formula One, and then that trickled down. So whatever technology is in Formula One now, it'll be in cars within the next 5 to 10 years. I mean, there it is. There's a paddle shift, like that's in there now.
Yeah,
Automatic gearboxes, that was Formula One. It's just been filtered down. But you look at Formula One, and you're like, well, you wouldn't drive that car around, would you?
yeah, you die.
It's got a very specific purpose. And I think that's the same. And I'm not trying to put people off, playing sports. Sport's awesome. It
Mm.
has a lot of upside to it. And that's why you would do it, right? It's because the trade-off is worth it. But yeah, in my experience, anyone who's had a really red hot crack at it hasn't come out of it unscathed.
Yeah, yeah. As you sort of say towards the end there, like the caveat for all this is, again, you don't measure your life off of a single metric of health, but if you were to, then
Yeah.
you wouldn't suggest that sport was overly healthy at the highest level performance.
No. Not if you're
But
really trying to push it.
but yeah, but as you said, the trade-off may end up being fine. But the classics would be looking at someone like Ronnie Coleman, the old bodybuilder
Oh,
who is,
yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, he was as peak
Yeah.
as you could get when it comes to weightlifting
Guy's
and
best ever.
bodybuilding, and
Yeah.
just now he can't walk. And
100%. And look, it's not that some of it isn't reversible to a certain extent, but yeah, I think you do a bit of damage on the way. Yeah, I really just think it does come back down to like it's quite evident that if sport was healthy, you'd be able to keep doing it. It would be a part of that health journey throughout your entire life. There's a reason why you have to retire at some point for some sports. Obviously, like with tennis, you can just regress the level that you play at. I'm sure Roger Federer will probably play tennis until he's done, and that's fine. But he's not going to play tennis, and be number 10 in the world, top 10 in the world.
I think has he retired now?
He's done. He's had enough
Yeah,
because he couldn't keep up anymore.
yeah,
And look, yeah, part of that is aging. And I think, look, to be honest, I think he had a relatively clean career. Sure, he had injuries, but I don't think he had anything major, which is credit to him. And I think there's a bit of a coincidence there. Like guys who can, play sport into their 40s, there's a reason for it because they've looked after themselves as much as they can. But like I said, they're still not coming out unscathed.
Well, yeah, but I guess to that point, interesting enough, just trying to think through clientele myself,
Mm.
and obviously small sample size. But what I will say is, no one's immune to the ravages of time, right? So
Nah.
everyone, whether you go through sport, high performance, no sport whatsoever, you're getting people coming in with issues left, right, and center.
Yeah.
And so, as you say, the overall trade offs for them, like everyone gets to make that judgment and call. But not doing high performance also doesn't guarantee a healthy, happy body either. So it's
No, you're right. There's a degeneration.
yeah, sure,
We're just degenerating.
yeah,
And,
from the
and
moment we die,
yeah,
from the moment we're born.
yeah, until you're done. For now. For now.
Yeah,
Um,
Ryan Johnson's on it.
man, I think we're pretty close.
Yeah.
Well, have you heard of the escape velocity?
No, to say more.
Yeah, so and we wouldn't be that far away from it because we've already got some of these things down. But it's essentially like the medical advancements in longevity will get to a point where um it's going faster than what we can degenerate,
Mhm.
essentially.
Yeah.
So
Sounds like it tries to incur like Moore's law, which is for computing power, but I'm guessing
oh yeah,
is using it for health optimization. So,
yeah.
any particular advances at the moment that or you're saying as a general rule of thumb?
No, I'm happy to pull out some interesting. Well, I mean, like even say let's say like GLP-1 agonists, right?
Right.
Like, to be fair, they've actually been around for quite a while now. Well, the popular ones at the moment, they've been around for a while. We've got far better ones than that now.
Which is what's GLP-1?
GLP-1 agonist would be like
Is it like a peptide or
Wegovy. Yeah, it's a peptide. I'm trying to think of the brand names. I can't for some reason I always just forget the brand names. What's the big one? Bloody that everyone's on.
like TRT you talking about
No,
now?
no,
Or
no.
so is GLP-1, is that like a growth hormone type thing
My
or
wife would be all over this. It's like a glucagon agonist. So it's like suppresses your appetite. Um,
oh, okay, I know that I'm talking about that everyone's using to lose weight.
yes.
Man, what is that? It's up now.
Oh, God, my wife would be all over this. She actually helped me with this the other day.
I can't believe that that's also now skipped
Yeah,
my mind. I
yeah.
know exactly what you're talking about. I'm sure everyone else knows what
Oh,
you're
it's
talking
just
about right
like
now.
it's like right there. Just my brain's like, nah, don't. It's not here today, man.
Yeah, it's all right. You've got a kid, because things happen as a dad,
But yeah, I think that's a good example of like, well, one that yeah, like that technology is semi outdated, but having a pretty significant impact. And that's just peptides. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some peptides. It's just whether they get through, right? It's like whether they get regulated well enough. Look, because there is side effects to this stuff as well. Um,
I almost guarantee that Australia will almost never have any of these things
nah,
available.
no, it's pretty. I mean, I'm pretty surprised that we have what we have now, to be honest.
Oh, really?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's pretty good. It works. It does the job. It's like helped a lot of people lose a lot of weight. And yeah, I mean, I'm all for it. I wasn't maybe a couple of years ago, but then when you experience it, not yeah, when you experience it personally, you're like, oh yeah, this has worked. I haven't personally done it, but I know people
Never
who
have.
have. Um,
The only thing that concerns me about the weight loss one that I still can't believe it hasn't come to mind yet, but I'm sure it will at some point. But there's always concerns for me for like anything new that comes out. You always go, okay, there's pros and cons.
oh yeah, 100%.
No, there's no free lunch,
No,
and so
definitely not.
when it started to come out that same stuff does seem to weaken cardiac muscle,
Yeah, 100%.
and so you go, all right, well, your cardiac muscle is one of the few things you can't really regenerate, and so there's some
Yeah,
issues going along with using it. But for some people, I can see why, if it helps them to simply get over or
correct.
into the hump of
Yeah,
losing weight,
yeah,
that process alone can be again worth the sort of trade off
yeah.
initially.
I should say all these things need to be coupled with the same principles that someone who isn't doing that needs to follow. So like, need to move still.
Yeah, speak with your GP.
Yeah, speak with you. Oh, yeah, definitely speak with.
Obviously,
But like, let's say if you're just trying to lose weight, you need to move a little bit. You need to be in a calorie deficit. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
you need to track these things. You need to um, consider your eating habits as a behavior. Like, what are some of the reasons why you're eating? It's not we don't all just eat just because It's food. Sometimes we eat because we're stressed. Sometimes we eat because we're emotional, and that's fine. It's okay. But just understand why you're doing that. Understand like your appetite cues and signals. Are you eating because you're actually hungry? How hungry have you let yourself get? Um, I think all those still have to be in play, even if you're on
Yeah.
the
Yep.
help.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Exactly. Like anything, you're not just simply taking a pill and being like, "Cool, that's the work done." Or
Yes.
I guess an example on the
Yet.
physio side.
Yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I think it might come.
Yeah. The pill to solve all things.
Yeah, I am normally so against it,
Mm.
but just the advancement in medical science is just so rapid at the moment, and you just start bringing AI into the conversation, and I just think there's things that are going to happen that we can't fathom.
Yeah, I would say that my best guess for like the new world of treatment would be
Ozempic, I just remembered that.
Zempic. Well done.
God,
I had Oxy or something in my head for
don't.
some reason.
I had OptiSlim in my head. I was like, no, that's the bloody shakes.
Zempic. Thank
Ozempic.
God, dude. Um, yeah, my best guess for what would come for helping to regulate people into a better health would be some level of AI chip implantation in brain. So
And yeah,
it's
okay. What's that chip doing?
so that chip there is essentially regulating your autonomic nervous system, and it's regulating all the processes, including things like making sure that you're no longer feeling hungry anymore if you don't want to feel hungry all the time.
There you go. Yeah.
It's stopping you from having a certain like high heart rate, or it's changing the way that
Mm.
you're activating your metabolism, or it's changing the way that your gut is mobilizing, or it's changing the way all these different facets of how the body's controlled is largely there's obviously an interrelationship between gut and brain. There is multiple brains, I would say, so to speak. It's not simply just run from up here.
Well, it's a nervous system, right?
Exactly. And I mean, although the control center is largely
Yeah.
up top,
Sure.
to me, it sounds like you'll the best way this will be managed is essentially a super smart operator that works on your subconscious level um, systems, and it can change your activation of a single neuron if it decides to.
Well, there'll be an app for
There'll be an app for it, yeah. Yeah, exactly. At the moment, it'll just be turn this up or turn this down. If you
it.
feel a bit anxious today, turn your anxiety down a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, you want to feel a bit happy, turn a little happiness meter up. Oh, you're about to have sex, all right? Want to turn yourself up a little bit more
Yeah.
horny? Like,
Yeah.
okay, you can turn that one up.
Yeah.
That would be my guess for what happens, and at the same time, it then just processes, more. If you want to lose a bit more weight, it'll turn up those
Yeah.
burners if it needs to.
Yeah.
Things to that degree. That
Yeah.
would be my guess.
No, I think you're right. And I think there was a Netflix movie with Chris Hemsworth in it. I think it was called Spider or Spider something. It
Okay.
was pretty cool. Similar kind of concept, except I don't think one, it was like an experimental center. I don't think it was a chip. I think they had injections.
Yeah. Okay.
And the
I could see that,
injections,
like nanorobots or something.
I don't know. No, it still seemed to me like it was a chemical serum. So
Okay.
yeah, it's been a while since I watched it. But yeah, like kind of the same premise, right? Like we can essentially manipulate what you're doing just based on a simple injection.
Mm.
Kind of makes sense. Like it is kind of just chemistry and neuroscience. It's pretty hackable.
Uh,
We hack it all the time, don't we?
Yeah, yeah. That's the hacks seem to get better. The only thing I'll say is as well that the more that we dive into it, we do seem to then increase levels of complexity the further that you go. And
There's a trade-off to this,
if
man.
we do, what I'll say is I'll believe that stuff is all going to be doable when we say that we, for instance, have figured out consciousness. If we get general AI as an example, where we create a conscious intelligence,
Yeah.
and we go right, we somehow have now figured out what it is to be conscious as a result of that.
Mm,
That's when I think, okay, that's enough of an unlock about how consciousness in the brain works
mm,
that I'll then go, all right, I'll see the curve up for
mm,
the types of stuff that we're talking about right now. Up until that point, like we can't even exactly define qualia, which is the quality of a sensory experience. So
mm,
we can't objectively measure the experience of seeing the color yellow or the experience of falling in love. There
mm,
are there are experiences that we interact with all day, every day that we have no measurement or
mm,
understanding of.
mm,
So qualia is its own big issue within psychology and neurology, which
mm,
is if we have no way to map this, we're missing some understanding about how things work. And so
Mhm.
the idea of creating a general intelligence, for instance, we believe is at least somewhat hamstrung by the fact that we can't even explain
Mm,
certain features of it.
yeah.
Maybe we come across it accidentally, but yeah, I'm optimistic for that sort of stuff. But I feel like I'm a little bit more on the. I think it's going to take a little bit longer than what people think, even with ChatGPTs and language models just shooting off into the distance.
I agree.
But
Well, because you still got to adopt it.
yeah,
People still got to want to do those things, and
I would.
man, I'm all for it. Let's
Yeah.
go. No, like it's yeah. We still the socials, yeah, psychosocial stuff and behavior is still the primary driver, right? Like, and what do we say is the most important thing, which seems to be power and money,
Yeah.
is going to still be the primary driver. So, yeah, these things might exist. They just might not exist to everyone. Maybe they do exist.
Yeah, well, as you say, the F1 car,
Yeah,
like the
it'll filter down.
billionaire
Yeah,
will
exactly.
eventually again.
Yeah.
Um, going back to the gym, the sort of stuff that you do, love the little tangents,
Yeah.
but the type of work that you're looking for
Yeah.
in terms of your athletes,
Yeah. Yeah.
how do you think about the process of gaining performance? Do
Mm.
you have your own sort of belief or
Mm.
system of what performance means and is and how it works?
Mm. It's a good question. I love how you've framed it as well, because I don't think I've ever thought about it like that. And I definitely would. I think it's your job now whether you can pull it out of
Yeah,
my
that's that
brain.
is that's my role.
Because I definitely have like principles and philosophies that I follow. I'm just trying to think how I would answer that question because there is lots.
Well, for instance,
Yeah,
so if someone is coming to you, we'll use an example
yeah,
perhaps. So we have, for instance, a shared client of sorts,
yeah,
someone that's in inline skating.
yeah,
They're more on the rehab side,
yeah.
but we can even maybe assume or take that aside and say, look, we're just looking to
Yeah.
improve their overall performance. Uh, do you have a process just to even understand what that means to that
Mm,
person to begin with, and
mm,
then how you try and
mm.
get there?
Yeah, 100%. And this has shifted for me quite significantly over the last probably 2 or 3 years. Previously, very X's and O's driven, very systematic, very just like this is the program, this is the work that needs to get done. We just do it at full intent. Doesn't like any system. It doesn't take in the variability of humans. There is we are complex adaptive systems, and I guess the two important parts there is the complex part, but also the adaptive part. Yeah, we do follow systems. Don't get me wrong, but they change. So the system has to be able to adapt to the complexity of the individual.
Mhm.
So for me, I've put a much greater focus on how to actually influence and make an impact to that individual, because I can create a great program and a great system, but if it is not followed, then it is useless.
Yep.
So I've
The
spent a,
old leader horse to water.
exactly right. So lead a horse to water, but you can't teach them to drink, but you can make them very thirsty.
Hey, that's good.
Yeah. And that's what we're working on is like, well, what are the drivers? What would make someone want to do this? So yeah, we've spent a lot more time on uh, I guess prioritizing the coaching of the process. So actually getting a better understanding of someone, and this means you need to get their perspective. You need to see it how they see it. So I guess instead of sitting across from someone, I'm sitting next to someone. It's a more supportive, collaborative process of like, well, how are we going to go about this? Whereas previously, I think it was like, Harry, you come in, you see me, you pay me, I do the thing for you, I give you the service, and you just do what I say, and you realize that doesn't work for probably 99% of people. You might get lucky. Someone's just super subordinate and just you've built enough trust and rapport that they'll just listen to you.
Yeah.
But you got to pay your dues. And for me, it's been way more effective, even if it feels like painstakingly harder. The results have been like significantly better to just run it more as a collaboration as opposed to just do what I say.
Do you have an example of this,
Mm,
as a before and
many.
after? So I'm imagining again, you're basically saying, usually people would just come in and be like, "Oh, you want to do this? No, all right, bang, here's your program. Go get the work done.
Mm,
We'll check in as we need to and work together."
yes,
And now you're very much on we need to really understand your story,
yes,
exactly where you're coming from,
yep,
so that whatever we do, we're completely on the same page
yeah,
about how we're going to achieve those goals.
yeah.
Yeah. Do you have an example of someone that you've sort of done this with, or again, it doesn't have to be super specific with the person, but
No,
what that
100%.
might look
I
like?
mean, there's plenty of examples. The tricky part with that question is that it's not a before and after
Mm,
because it is just a continuous process. It comes back to that complexive adaptive system because things are changing as we're moving forward. Literally, we're changing every second. So one's it's accepting that is that things will change because you can have the same person that you've worked with strongly bought in, and then maybe something's changed for them, and now that buy-in's changed. And you as a coach, if you don't adapt with that, then the relationship might fall down. So you've got to adapt with it as well. I am trying to think of specific scenarios, but there is like just hundreds of
mhm.
coming into my. It's almost everyone we interact with, and then there's variables within each of those interactions.
Are
So
you
I'm trying to think a little bit more broader and principle based.
Because are you having to check in with your athletes uh, for this like buying example,
Mm,
to make sure everyone's on the same page?
yeah.
Is this sort of a roundabout you're specifically going out there like, all right, every fortnight I'm just going to check in where they at, what's going on, or is it just because you're spending time with people so you get the chance to sort of just generally get feedback and you're sort of adapting as you move along?
So I guess like that perspective is that's focusing on the methods, all right?
Hmm.
Methods are many, principles are few.
Right.
So how you kind of do it, I think there's many ways to skin the cat to how you do it. We don't necessarily have the solution. We have a solution. But for me, it's just prioritizing the right thing. So, like I was saying, prioritizing actually building a relationship with someone over just focusing on the X's and O's. Don't get me wrong, there needs to be competence in that. You do need to dose things correctly and you need to prescribe things correctly. You still need to work on that. But just stopping there isn't going to get the job done. And in fact, getting to know someone better means that you will need to adapt and adjust those X's and O's pretty regularly as well to make sure that the boat is still moving forward. I guess for me, it just comes back to that. It's like, are what we're doing, is it actually making a difference?
Mm.
And if it's not, we have to accept and take ownership of like, no, this is not pushing the needle. We need to change.
When you talk about, your principles,
Hmm.
are these things that you've specifically written down or things that you're just aware in the background seem to drive you?
I probably haven't written them down and put them in the same place.
Mhm.
So they are written down, but they're scattered and they kind of come. So we run an internship program. Um, and a part of that internship program, every week we do workshops and we're kind of talking about either industry specific stuff or mentoring type stuff or personal growth type stuff. So that's where all my principles will come out
Right,
along
okay.
those lines. But maybe I should just write my list of principles. It's probably not a bad thing.
Yeah, next time when we do another chat, we'll do a list of your principles and just knock through it.
It's not a bad idea. I kind of like the idea of going through that process just to solidify it a little bit more. But yeah, I guess for me, the reason I kind of communicate mostly in principles is because I know how complex systems are. I know how
Yeah.
complex things are. I know how different things can be. Whereas I feel like if you understand principles, they can be applied to many, many things. Whereas methods can't. Sometimes a methodology just doesn't work in a certain scenario.
Mm.
So that's why I've always, I guess you could kind of call this a principle. It's for me, you would call it like anyone in the S&C industry would know this. You never go full Bosch.
Never go full Bosch.
Well, yeah, so Franz Bosch, he's a really good practitioner and he's kind of come up with his own kind of system, which is great. And it looks at things a little bit differently, probably more movement biased as opposed to isolating things. And he's come up with a couple of great drills, and it's more about this transference. He's big on transference. It's I guess if you really wanted to, I wouldn't call it functional. He's not that bad, like functional fitness. Don't get me started on that. Um,
Okay.
he's more
We'll
just
put a pin on that one.
yeah, put a pin in that one because that could go anywhere. It's more about just how well does like what we're doing in, let's say, the gym space, to how well does that transfer to the sporting field, which is great. But he probably goes too far that way and kind of gives up a lot of those general adaptive principles, which are still pretty sound. And there's a lot more evidence to suggest that they still work than this pure kind of sport specific transfer.
Right, as in you're only doing sport-specific type movements?
Yeah, like, and trying to replicate as much as you can in the gym, and like by theory, it makes sense, right? But there's some big gaps in it. So for me, not going full Bosch means I will use some of his tools, but I will not fully buy into all of his concepts. So anyone that goes, it's kind of like the kettlebell gurus. It's the only implement ever used as a kettlebell.
Mm,
I have to turn off. I will listen to the principles of that guru, but I will not follow the methodology
mm,
because that's too reductionist.
mhm,
It can't just be about there's only so heavier a kettlebell.
mm.
There's only so much force you can apply into the ground with a kettlebell. It's just a tool.
As you say, for a lot of these, I imagine in the ideal world, they'll be viewed similar to what your gym is doing, right? It's supporting a niche, and it's like great that works well. It doesn't solve every problem.
Yeah,
Only lifting kettlebells doesn't solve every problem
yeah.
that you're after.
Just what gets the job
Yeah.
done.
So,
I don't really care.
well, this is where you have to be careful of like gurus in general because they are very good at solving like a specific problem. That seems to be the way to solve all problems,
Yes,
and
yes.
that's not how it works, right? Which is where I think
Not in my experience.
I just don't think it. I think in most people's experience, you start to realize like, ah, okay, I'm always looking for the shortcut,
Yes,
but the shortcut never really gets me to where I want to go to.
I'm aware of absolute statements.
Yeah,
I'm aware of absolute statements, especially if there's evidence suggesting that there is other ways to do things.
yeah,
You know, um, people just flat out going like, powerlifting doesn't work, weightlifting doesn't work. It's like, well, it's not that it doesn't work. It's just, maybe we don't just be a powerlifter if you're trying to play AFL.
yeah.
But the principles of applying force into the ground, that's a pretty important one. So maybe we might do some powerlifting type movements, like a bench press or a deadlift or a squat.
So your overall, because in your space, right, like you get pumped with information about people who are contradicting or talking down onto certain
Yeah,
technique methods,
it
right?
sucks.
So the average
I
person
hate it.
might not know, but there's a lot
Oh,
of like infighting. I think there's infighting
so
within
much.
every
For
profession.
sure, for
There
sure.
is, right?
Yeah.
But within your profession, maybe even talk a little bit around like what are the contending ideas in the space that you work in, or some of the contending ideas that you see
Yeah.
coming to and fro.
Oh, I can try my best because I I try not to get involved, but you just inherently get involved, don't you? Like
Yeah,
as in you pay attention to it a little bit.
yeah,
Mainly, I probably pay attention just in case. What if one of them's right?
yeah.
I think you got to be open enough to be like, maybe this guy's actually onto something. Probably the one prolific one. Again, if you're in this industry, you'll know is Nadi Aguilera. So functional patterns.
Right.
I don't think he's completely wrong, but because he is so absolutist and cult-like, you just you just got to be really careful to what you listen to when it comes to him. I think he's right. Probably should do some more rotational stuff. We probably should move out of some different planes. I think some of his exercise selection is okay, but then a lot of what else he says, and it's mainly just because he puts down every other methodology.
Mm.
That's the only reason I just don't like it. Like you just don't put your methodology on top of everyone else's. How do you know? Of
I always wonder, is it a marketing ploy
course it is. It's
or
marketing.
or is it a legitimate belief?
No.
Because
Well,
I think about that stuff a lot, like the Jake Paul saga, right? Jake Paul,
run me through that.
people. So Jake Paul, popular YouTuber, now
Mm.
boxes, and people pay
Mm.
tune in to hope to see him get knocked out,
Yeah.
right? As in he's marketed himself for people to dislike him so
He's a
much
villain. Yeah.
that he now gets paid so much to
Yeah.
then box, and so the only if he was trying to be a balanced, level-headed dude, nice, whatever, no one would give a shit
No.
watching him get knocked out. But because of the way that he's marketed himself, which makes me like for anyone that achieves anything, I'm like, power to you. Shit's hard to do. And so if you can achieve something, I look at, doesn't matter who it is, if it's the Kardashians,
Mm.
doesn't matter. You can
Yeah,
say what you like about what people do and how they get there, but it
getting it
takes
done.
work, effort to get
Yeah,
wherever you get to.
100%.
And so in the Jake Paul saga, people legitimately dislike him. I've got nothing. I don't like him. I don't
No.
dislike him. It's more I'm impressed by how well he's achieved this marketing feat.
Yeah,
And then
100%.
but I always wonder about someone like I don't know the guy's name, but I've seen functional patterns
Yeah,
around beforehand,
yeah,
and same thing. I've seen that sort of a little bit of absolutist infighting that goes in between crowds of people, and I do
hilarious.
wonder. I'm like, do you all believe that you're absolutely correct, or is it you may as well double down on your position because it's the best way to market? Because creating this infighting as well helps to almost build up some of the clout for individual areas because everyone loves a
Yeah,
team. Everyone loves to be like, well, I do this particular
yeah,
activity,
yeah,
so I back in my
yeah.
type of coach, right?
Look, we definitely use some of those tactics. Like we've been
Yeah.
called cultish in the past. Like you take it as a sign of
Yeah.
respect, to be honest, because
Yeah.
really what it means, because it's done mostly in jest, I hope, is that you've just created a really strong community.
Yeah.
And culture is extremely important to us. And look, yeah, that's good. I'm glad you brought that up because I think that's as important as well. It's if you go outside the X's and O's, if you create an environment where there's a lot of like-minded people, you'll get very similar results.
Mhm.
I think the best example of this is West Side Barbell. I don't know if you've heard of West Side Barbell.
I've heard of, but
Heard
not.
of, yeah. So Louis Simmons, rest in peace now. He was a bit like this as well. It's kind of like West Side Method or nothing. So like he's gone a bit absolute. So you don't go full Louis either. But he's got some pretty good ideas. And he popularized some different things, and he took it from like the Soviets and all that. Like apparently the Russians just had it going in the 60s and 70s. I don't know what happened, but they've definitely advanced sports science. That's for sure. Even if you ethically have an issue with their drug use, they're still pretty good coaches and
Yeah.
sports scientists.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
The drugs only work if you train hard,
Yeah.
and they knew how to train hard. Too much, actually, too much to some detriment. But I guess what's impressive in that sense, why I think environment is possibly one of the most important, if not the most important, is that he had like I think it was like 10 world record holders in powerlifting,
Wow. Yeah.
and he only had one gym in like he was southern, so let's say like Louisville or something like that. I can't remember exactly where he's at, but like this tiny town in America had 10. Now you can't just say that's genetics.
Yeah.
Can't just be
Or luck
genetics
or whatever.
or luck. It's like they were literally willing to die under barbells. And yeah, they use drugs and all that kind of stuff. Fair enough. But if everyone's using drugs, all of a sudden it becomes a pretty fair game, right?
Yeah.
Like I think about Lance Armstrong, right?
I was thinking the same
You
thing.
know, like everyone shits on him. Yeah, fair enough. He did some pretty bad things, but he was the best of all the drug users.
Yeah. Of which basically all the bike riders were.
Well,
So
they were all pretty much on drugs anyway,
yeah.
so it's like he's still the best of the lot. Yeah, I'm definitely not for um, performance enhancing drugs. Definitely not with my athletes. But I do have a mad respect for those who are willing to, yeah, take that risk.
Enhanced games. I'm looking forward to it.
Man, I'm actually for it. I'm
Yeah,
just
I'm big.
very curious.
I've always said I reckon that you needed this. I mean, people have said it all the time, but you really want to know, right? You just want fair playing field,
Yeah,
and if people are willing to
yeah,
take the drugs, just like people are willing to take supplements,
yeah.
whatever else normally, there's always going to be people willing to push it to the absolute limit. And out of curiosity, how fun would it be to see how much advantage does drugs give
Does
you?
it give you? What's the difference?
How much does the world record easily or Olympic records
100%.
get beaten? Is it massively
Or
different?
is it
Or is it
marginally?
yeah, it's like
100%.
so were
Totally.
those drugs not making that much of a difference, or is everyone actually still on drugs right now and then we're just getting away with it? Like
It's I think it would be more fair. I
yeah.
think it's actually
Yeah.
more fair because if you
Agreed.
take the regulations off, it's just like, well, it's up to you how hard you want to go, and let's just see what happens. It's more fair because if you are drug tested and there are people still using drugs because they know how to beat the tests. If anyone's seen Icarus on Netflix, you
Yeah,
see how
unreal. Yeah.
crazy, right? So how is that fair? Because people are still clearly doing it.
Yeah.
Can't tell me they're not. I mean, we've got an even bigger debate now. There's the transgender debate,
Yeah.
which is tough. It's a real sticky one to get into.
I don't think it's that sticky at all. I think it's pretty clear. Just you can't have guys who are once guys then compete in women's sports. There's just a complete unfair advantage. It's not you would never want. I mean, we see people that go into MMA, boxing, wrestling. It's powerlifting. It's a completely unfair domain. The swimming, like if I was a female athlete, I'd be livid, livid. I would be happy for it to go the other way though, as in like if born girls want to transition to guys
Sure.
to compete against,
Yeah.
no worries, go for it. But it's not fair for the other way around.
Look, I don't think it's that's the thing. Everyone's like trying to make it a fair argument. It's like it's not gonna be fair. It's never gonna be fair. It's never gonna be equal. Stop trying to create that case.
Mm.
Then what do you do with transgender athletes? It's like, well, that's not fair either. They are being excluded as well. So are we talking about the actual athleticism side of things? Or are we talking about a social issue? Don't get them confused.
Yeah. I think that that one's relatively clear, but there is again like the idea behind enhanced games. You've got Special Olympics if you really want to have guys who are transitioning girls compete against each other, all for it.
Do
But
that. Yeah.
unfortunately, I think it would be completely unfair for gals who train their whole life to be upset by a guy that wouldn't be able to beat the top 100 and whatever he's competing in and can then go in, just take over a sport.
So why do we let it happen?
What's that?
Why do we let it happen?
I don't know. I mean, I think in some areas, hopefully, it's being clamped down on, but it's just the one area. It's like if you want to be trans, no problems. It's not an issue at all.
Yeah.
Do whatever you want with your life.
Yeah.
Couldn't care less.
Yeah.
But you try and take a trophy away from a lady who's trained so freaking hard. Um, it's just I think that's complete bullshit. Um, a little bit on the again, we love our little tangents. I was going to circle back as well because we're getting into the
I,
performance side.
I get the feeling like I haven't actually answered any of your questions.
Well, I've been enjoying just sort of the movement of the conversation because to me it's actually circling what I'm interested in here as
Okay.
well, which is as we're getting to the point where we're talking about performance
Mm,
and right now performance enhancement and
mm,
such, is a lot of this performance enhancement stuff I really look at just like the F1 car analogy that you used. How does performance enhancement and the acceleration or innovation happening in this space,
mm,
how does that then trickle down to general population
mm,
to help with things like your rehab and returning from injury?
mm,
And from the performance side, I had sort of two questions,
mm,
and I'll get to the second one. But the
mm,
first one was really around the other aspects of performance that you can look at. So, you know, you're obviously engaged heavily in the training side
mm,
and programming and
mm.
again, the motivation of your athletes. Where do the other bits of the puzzle fit in with what you do? Like how much does the sleep and the nutrition and supplementation and, you know, meditation or whatever, all these other components, does that make up part of what you do or what you think about?
100%. It's whatever makes the boat go faster. So anything that I feel is going to be impactful and help the athlete perform better, I want to be having a look at it. I think the simplest way that I like to view this, and this would be one of my principles, is performance equals fitness minus fatigue. Yes, it probably simplifies it a bit too much, but I do like it as a simple lens to start to make some decisions. So if we look at it, it is just a balance between fitness and fatigue. And the kind of ironic thing about it is that when we train, we become more fatigued. So that's actually that side of things. When we recover, we become fitter because we adapt to the training that we're doing. So I think some people have it the wrong way around.
Hmm.
Whereas the more I train, the fitter I'll become. You only become fitter if you can recover from the stimulus that you've put yourself through. You have to adapt. I think a lot of people, I'd probably say it's more this way than unders, is they just train, push, 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 and hope they adapt. If you never give your body the chance to adapt, there is no chance to increase fitness. I mean, the simplest or an easy way to put this from a sports performance perspective, this is why we generally taper leading into competitions. Is you do this is why you have off season, pre-season, in season. This is why you have seasonal training as well, because there should be periods where you push really hard, and we do accumulate a lot of fatigue because we know after that fatigue comes if we get it right. This is the hard part. If we get it right, we get super compensation. We get that over adaptation. That's where we become fitter.
Um,
If we get it right. If we get it wrong, you get maladaptation. You get worse. It's hard. And what's hard about it is that that as a principle is sound and it's a good guide, but it differs between everyone. How hard you push one individual is going to be different to how hard you push another individual. And unfortunately, what I found, because I would fall in this bucket, is that I like to push really hard and break. So my best training results have been from less training, not more training. So higher prioritization on recovery. Whereas there's other athletes who can push, 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 push and keep going, and they will still continue to adapt and improve. And look, they're probably your genetic cream of the crop, to be honest. That's what gets them there, is that they probably, for whatever reason, just have this innate recovery ability or can just tolerate really high workloads, and that's how they get that far.
Uh, are there any particular ways that you have athletes think about their recovery or how they know if they're
Mm,
getting adequate recovery?
yeah, 100%. Well, yeah, I mean, performance is a really good indicator. If
True.
your performance is going up, it suggests that you're recovering quite well. Because if you like on the flip side, if you just recover, well then there's no adaptation. There's nothing to recover from. So you're not going to get better. And if you do nothing, you can regress actually. You can get worse. So there still has to be a stimulus. Yeah, I think if you're moving faster, if you're um, lifting more, if you are just having a bigger impact on the field or the court or whatever in the pool, whatever you're doing, you've probably got the balance right between stimulus, adaptation, and performance. Again, it comes back to that equation, right? But like I said, there's different times where we do these things. Like off season, it kind of depends how big your seasons are, but in general, like off season, I don't care if you're tired and sore. Good. That's what I'm after. Let's go. Preseason's kind of the same thing. I don't need you peaking right now. This is not where you win games in preseason. Let's push. Because for me, it works on multiple levels, right? There's a macro level, there's a meso level, there's a micro level. So it's managing those three. So I guess what I mean by that is micro would be what you'd consider day to day or week to week and how they influence each other. And then meso would kind of be like, yeah, cycle to cycle or season to season. And then macros, over the course of the year. So for me, off season's a good opportunity to work on things that maybe you didn't get to because the number one priority during a season is your sport. It means that maybe some other things need to be shifted down the line, and you can't necessarily work on, max velocity sprinting and maximal strength and things like that because they would be competing against the thing that you actually want to get better at, which is your sport. So that has to become a priority. It's not that you're not doing those things, it's just that you probably can't do them to a level to really shift that adaptation. Whereas off season, you take away some of those stimulus. Look, you should probably still be doing some skill work, by the way. If you're a swimmer, you should still do a little bit of swimming. You're just not going full send and maybe doing a lot less. But then it means you should be working on those other things that are going to push the needle to make you a better swimmer down the track.
For like the people coming in to see you across different sports,
Mm.
are you having to become like an expert within a few weeks on a particular sport? Because I imagine you've got probably a lot of different sports,
Yeah.
and there must be times where someone comes in with a sport that you like, haven't really dealt with an athlete
Yeah.
involved in this sport beforehand.
Yep.
Is that a difficult process to try and work out how to break down a sport to make it, the training that you provide, as translatable as possible?
Yes and no. I'd probably say no. I don't think it's actually as hard as what people make it out to be. Because look, I wouldn't call myself an expert in AFL, but it's definitely the sport I followed the most, and I feel like I've probably got the most clout in. I've played it myself. I've been a part of a semi-professional team. I've watched it for 35 years. So I've got a pretty good idea there. It doesn't necessarily make me the best coach at that, or a better coach than if I'm coaching a basketballer or a swimmer. Or it helps because it probably gives me a little bit more, allows me to be more empathetic to what I think that person needs to go through because I've physically felt it and I've seen it, which is helpful. But I think there's a point of diminishing returns. Like you don't need to be a leading expert in the sport to train. And this is where I come back to those principles and where just knowing your actual role in the grand scheme of things of this athlete. For us, and I say this to my athletes, we are just supplemental. Like what we do is a supplement to their sport. At the end of the day, if you want to get better at sport, you play sport. I'm going to say that again. If you want to get better at sport, you play sport. You want to get better at tennis, you have to play tennis. You can't just work on your strength and your speed and your agility and then hope that tennis gets better. That's not how it works. You have to play your sport and you play it as much as you can. It's just that there is also a point of diminishing returns to how much of your sport you can play before it becomes a negative adaptation or a maladaptation. So the supplement, what I think our role actually is, and you could call it either direct or indirect, is just getting someone to be able to play their sport is probably more our job than actually improving their quote unquote performance.
Hmm.
So as long as you can play, as long as you can keep playing footy or tennis or swimming, you will get better at that sport. When you can't play your sport, you won't get better at it. You might even get worse.
By can't play, do you mean as a result of things like injury or
Things,
just?
yeah, injury, or maybe you've just got the priorities wrong.
Do you see that often? Like people.
Fortunately not. Fortunately not. But if it does happen, that's this conversation happens. It's like, no, I think I did actually. I'm just trying to think. Yeah, I think I was on a call the other day and someone was kind of saying that, like, yeah, I remember that. Yeah, no, I'm not going to go down to footy pre-season and just work on my strength and my speed and my conditioning. I was like, how good are your skills? And are they going to stay like at that level if you don't like kick a footy for the next 3 months? Like, let's let's not get confused here. Sport is definitely the most important thing and stays the most important thing. Well, that's the thing you want to get better at,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Who cares if you can squat 200 but can't like ruck in a mall?
Yeah.
Like, who cares? You know what I mean? Because it
Yeah.
goes like I've seen guys like, I've worked with guys that were like didn't really do much in the gym, but when we did all the gym testing, won that. And then when we put him out in the field, best player on the field. You'd be surprised how far talent actually can get you.
Yeah.
Sucks to say it, but
Yeah.
it can go a very long way.
It does. I mean, it's if you've got talent and you've got perseverance and
Bro,
dedication on there, like you've got a
that's where you get
Kobe
that's where
mentality.
you get goats.
Yeah.
So the greatest of all times are
Yeah.
those who have combinations that are clearly genetically superior, but also have the right principles behind them as well. When you got the coupling, very hard to stop that individual.
Yeah.
Very hard.
Yeah.
But there are plenty that can be ultra talented and still make it to a very high level. I don't think they become the best, but they get to a very high level.
In your career so far, have you come across anyone with what you feel is both talent and goat mentality?
Mm, Maybe not GOAT. I've definitely got some athletes that have the right qualities. Yeah, but probably not to that level. I don't think I would be pretty lucky if I came across
Yeah,
that
well, I
individual.
mean, exactly.
Yeah.
It'd be rare. I was like, maybe one or two at
No.
the moment, but
I've definitely had both. Like I've definitely had very talented people that don't work hard, and I've had very hard workers that aren't very talented. But
the goat, the unicorn
the
is,
unicorns, I mean, they're a unicorn for a reason, right?
yeah,
Like I've had margins of it, but not to like a very, very high level.
sure,
Not to someone that if I drop their name, everyone would
sure.
be like, whoa, yeah, okay.
Does the type of training that you sort of do involved around performance again, whether it be weightlifting, speed, etc.,
Mm.
that you're doing, do you guys take into account or do you factor in anything that involves, like again, back to the F1, but
Mm.
like reflex sort of drills or things that's trying to improve, I guess, like fine motor skills
Mm.
or anything like that? Or is it largely more on the weight, speed, sort of the more classical movements?
Yeah, I mean we've dabbled. Again, it's kind of like knowing your role. I think
Sure.
the analogy I tend to use is it's a buckets analogy, and what buckets are you trying to fill up? So, like first thing I always look at with an athlete is what is their sport and what buckets is that sport already filling up? So, for example, let's say it's basketball, right? And we're looking at the physical qualities. So we've kind of got like skills. Yeah, maybe we have a separate bucket that is fine motor skills if you wanted to. Which kind of chose basketball because it is a very heavy skill set
Hmm.
sport. Like it's very like you can see it in the NBA, right? There's guys that just have supreme skills and lack athleticism, and
Yep.
arguably maybe the best player at the moment, Nikola Jokic. really lacks a lot of athlete. I mean, he's tall, but he's not the most. He's yeah, he's not your stereotypical athlete. I think if you saw him in the street, I'm not sure if you'd pick him for an athlete. Apart from him just being super tall, but he's probably the best player in the league. Probably has been for the last 5 years because he's extremely talented. I'm sure he works hard too. I don't think he's lazy, but he's just not your stereotypical. But if you're going back to the buckets, then you've got like, let's say, speed bucket, you've got your power bucket, let's say you got strength bucket, you got conditioning bucket, and you can whittle them down as much as you want. I keep it relatively general. So first thing is I want to look at, well, what does the sport give me? So if I'm looking at basketball, well, if you train for basketball, the skill bucket's going to be pretty top because you should be doing lots of skill development. Um, then I look at, say, like speed, and you might go, well, how much speed is actually going on in a game or training? And what's quite interesting with a lot of sports is it's a lot lower intensity than what you think. Like a lot more time is spent at quite moderate to low intensities than high intensities.
Mm,
So this is where we do come in. And for me, it's about that overload. It's what overload can you create to stimulate an adaptation.
right.
That's the only way you get adaptation right. Is like it has to be more than what the current status quo is,
Yep.
or the current homeostasis is. We got to push the system a little bit. So this is what we're looking at to try and fill up. So if anyone's lacking in any of those, they're the things that we're trying to fill up. So if you don't really get a lot of high speed exposure in your sport, we're going to give you a little bit of high speed exposure.
Okay. And so you're going right. You're separating out the buckets, and then you're
Mm.
trying to prioritize. Well, what are you uh, least good in, and would gain the most benefit from? That would then translate back into sport.
As long as that aligns with their goals, yes.
Yeah.
As
Okay.
long as because that's most important. You don't want to just fill buckets just because they're lacking. I think that's a pretty big misnomer, and that's something we've had to work out over the years. And fortunately it hasn't really happened to us, but I have heard a story. I think it was I want to say like either inline skating or maybe ice speed skating,
Right.
where there was a world champion athlete who was top of his game, top of the world, had won the recent world championship, and I want to say it was that kind of like it wasn't a full sprint. It was maybe that like 1,000 to 5,000 meters, that kind
Mm.
of like in between. So he had this really good mix of, I think he was very far, like he could hold anaerobic threshold for quite a period. And I think that was his strength. And that's what differentiated him. But he did have a little bit of a gap maybe with his aerobic capacity. So I think his coaches decided, well, let's work on this gap
Hmm.
and then he'll become even better again. But I think they might have gone a
Swap the system over a bit too much.
bit too much. And all of a sudden, his strength now started to diminish. So I think for me, if you find a strength and something that keeps you there, you just got to keep that going.
That's a good point. Actually, doubling down on your strengths, not
Yup,
simply just trying to.
100%. Don't just try and fill gaps all the time. You're only filling a gap if you feel it's going to push the needle,
Yep.
or it's limiting you from actually doubling down on your strength.
Yep. No, I think that's a really good point.
Like
Uh,
a big thing for me, like if we're talking principles again, the number one ability of an athlete is availability. Like,
what do you mean?
mate, if you can play your sport, let's there was a pretty good case study in the AFL a couple of years ago. So let's see if I can get these. Look, these percentages might not be completely accurate,
It's all right.
but they're
Ballpark.
roundabout. So the song as the message gets home, I think it's worth it. So the teams that had 75, the players that completed 75% of preseason were less likely, 75% or more, were less likely to get injured. And the team that had more than, I think it was like again 75 or 80% of their roster available at the end of the year were more likely to win a premiership.
By a pretty good a margin as well, I'm guessing.
Yeah, well, we saw it because the
Yeah.
team that the research come out from was Hawthorn, and they won 3 grand finals in a row.
Yeah. What do you think in this case, for example? Do you have a suspicion as to why injury is so prevalent in football? Again, I know it's a little tangent,
No,
but
no.
do you have your own theory as to why that might be the case?
I'm trying my best to say not to say it depends because I like better answers than that. So it's just multifactorial would be the answer, but I will give you the factors as well. So I'm not just leaving it at that. it's a level. It's what we'd call level one sport. So it's jump, run, cut, pivot. So like all the kind of dangerous things, all the things that just come with an element of risk to injury, and that's not even including contact. Then you throw contact into that as well, where injury can be present. So you've basically got all the things that can injure the human body in one sport, and then you add competitiveness to it, and then you know really high stakes. People get paid a lot of money for it. It generates a lot of money. It's a big economic driver of the country. Like it's got a lot at stake. So it means that people are willing to push the limits. It's like I was saying before. I don't think performance is healthy.
Yeah. Okay. If everyone just kept going about their days, they wouldn't be getting injured to the same numbers. Yeah.
Yeah, look, and I don't know. Like we'd maybe have to go back and look at the statistics because we didn't have this. That's the thing. I don't know if we've how long we've been tracking injury rates in the AFL, for example. Um, but yeah, you'd have to ask the question like, was it like this in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s? They weren't getting paid though, so it didn't mean as much to them financially anyway. Like they were still working jobs,
Probably
but
getting a pack of cigarettes and
yeah, exactly.
couple cans of Fosters.
Yeah, no, you're right. That's probably what it was. And look, they were probably still as dedicated because they just loved the sport. But I don't think the stakes were as high.
No.
But then you could argue, then there's probably less advancements in sports medicine and sports science. So maybe, I think with then what I would say is that, if you did your knee back then, that was like you were pretty much done. It's pretty hard to come back. Whereas now, you can kind of do an ACL and you can get back. And you might get back to the same level. That's probably the difference. So I don't know if the injuries necessarily changed, but I think the ability to overcome injuries has probably gotten better.
So you think in part
Would be
maybe
my guess.
injuries almost retire people straight away rather than just having like injury list building over time as well as a potential contributor. For me, my one of my guesses at the moment
Mm,
would be that the rate of change for young athletes' body morphology is too great for the current pace. So what I mean by that is if you watch the 18-year-olds who get pulled into the list of AFL athletes, and I mean everyone's obviously like you're still growing up into your mid and late 20s sort of thing, so you are going to expect to see some level of acceleration, but the amount of weight and muscle mass that's put on by athletes in a short period of time, my suspicion is that the something to do with the rate of change that the body's had to manage load changes through his sport has been relatively easygoing for the first like 18 years. Like you probably start to get in some weights, you're doing some running training, like you're going hard at some points in time. But I imagine the professional sort of step up, where again, now time wise, you've got much more dedication towards all parts of training. You've got a little bit of an emphasis on gaining some size, is
mm,
what it appears to me anyway,
mm,
in order to be able to compete against others who might try and rustle you out of out of a scrum or something like
mm,
that.
mm,
And you see the young guys when they're first starting out, is they have, and again, age is obviously on their side as well, but they seem to have a less likelihood of injury in the first year or two of them being enlisted.
mm,
And it's not until sort of the subsequent pre-season process of really trying to build, is the body just simply not adapting at the rate that it would need to then go from build, then into athletic sporting type. I mean, again,
mm,
it's a theory, but do you
mm.
have a
Yeah, I think in the AFL in particular, that's that's kind what I'm seeing is that's kind of changing. I'm noticing a
yeah,
lot of these kids are kind of ready to go. I look at this draft cast and I'm like, geez, they're not that far off it. Like physically, there's some big dudes out there. And I would say that something like strength conditioning has become a lot more popular over the last couple of years. So kids are more physically ready. So yeah, I tend to
true.
agree. I think previously you're right. You did nothing and then got drafted, and then you go into full loads. Too big of a gap. And you're right. I think a lot of kids broke. I know a lot of kids broke down. I saw it. Whereas now, if kids are starting at 11, 12, 13,
Mm,
and spending 4 or 5. And I say this, like, we work with a lot of youth athletes, and I say this to the parents. It's like, you imagine if your kid starts now, he could be doing an adult program within the next 3 to 4 years. So he could be 17, lifting like an adult, and then the guy next to him who hasn't done anything has to start at level zero. He has to start where your kid started when he was 11.
mm.
I don't care about age. Well, not chronological age. I care about training age. Just because you're 17 doesn't mean you get to go and lift heavy. You got to start back where everyone else starts if you want to do it properly.
Mm.
If you want to do it properly.
That's a good point. So for you, a lot of the athletes, what are the age ranges?
9 to I think our oldest is like 38.
Do you know any?
Mostly the front end.
Yeah, yeah. Um, do you know of is there certain evidence to suggest that again, like the younger that you start into the training, I would imagine that the greater likelihood of performing in high level sport into your, late teenage, early adulthood years. Is there, like the example is there was a guy that he tested an experiment for himself where he basically designed his entire house to be just like a chessboard. Everything was to do with chess. Every room was chess. Chessboards in every room. Books everywhere. All to do with chess. Everything chess in base. And all three kids ended up being like world champions. Okay.
Mm,
So the environment, the likelihood that all three kids were just naturally gifted chess players was basically zero.
mm,
And so it was an attempt to demonstrate, does the environment really put people into the state of being
mm,
able to outcompete from young
mm.
age? And so something like training early on performance, would you take someone younger than 9, or is 9 for you, you feel like the rough age where you're like, all right, now it's reasonable?
It's a good question. The problem with that though is that chess is a less chaotic system. Like it's more it's it's a lot easier to figure out. It's kind of like golf as well. So golf's almost got no chaos, right? Like it's pretty predictable.
In terms of the training required, or
Yeah. Well, even chess, I know there are, I'm sure there's millions of combinations,
yeah, yeah.
but it can still be relatively predictable if you can pick up the patterns. Whereas pretty much every other sport is chaos for the majority part of it. So that's why, because people bring up the same example with Tiger Woods. So he only played golf and obviously became, maybe the greatest of all time.
Mhm.
So I think too many parents look at that and go, oh, cool. My kid just needs to play basketball all the time. But he's the exception to the rule. And to be fair, it's also golf, so it actually doesn't translate to many other sports. And I'm sure that, look, I think Andre Agassi is the other one people bring up. I think he only ever played tennis and obviously became pretty good. But he's the exception to the rule. Almost every other world class athlete did multiple sports as a kid. So variety is the key. And we come into that as well because doing structured strength and conditioning is a variant. It's a different stimulus to then just more sport, more sport, more sport. So I would actually say the kids, this is just my observation,
Mhm.
the kids that only do one sport and do tons of that one sport, they are much more likely to get injured
Okay.
because it's just an overuse. It's
Mhm.
pattern overuse. And I don't think the diminishing returns are, yeah, I don't think the extra is worth the returns. Like, yes, I get it that if you did more of the thing that you should get better at the thing, but there is a point in diminishing returns. Like I don't think you exponentially get better. I think there's a point where there is enough. I also kind of like this concept I've been saying recently. You've heard the 10,000 hours of practice to
Mhm.
mastery. I think it's a bit of a fallacy because I think the type of practice that you do is extremely important. And I would argue 10,000 hours of poor practice is not going to shift the needle as much as 1,000 hours of really good, genuine practice.
I would agree. I would say though, if you're doing 10,000 hours of poor practice, something's gone real wrong along the way,
But it
surely.
happens.
Yeah.
That's the thing. That's what I'm saying. I reckon these kids are doing lots and lots of subpar. If I wanted to use another example, kind of to circle back a little bit where you were saying before, I don't think it's as apparent in the AFL because I think there is a bit of a shift there, and the jump isn't as big as what it once used to be. Like, if you're a part of a state league system, you're probably still playing maybe 18 games a year, and then an AFL competition is 23. So it's not a massive jump. Other sports though, baseball and basketball in the US. So college basketball players, they play. I think we worked it out the other day, like 30 something games, and then an NBA season is 82.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a massive jump. I think baseball's something like 50 games for college, and then it goes up to like 200.
Yeah. Baseball's crazy.
But that is such a big jump. They're definitely seeing issues with that. Probably another thing that I've noticed as well, the difference between American basketball players and European basketball players, and this is why the Europeans are actually starting to dominate a little bit, or at least the top end of it, is they have a very heavy focus on like training and minimal focus on games. So they still play games, but just not as much. Whereas the US system seems to be just games, 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 games. Games is not where you get better. Oh, look, don't get me wrong, I'm all for games experience, but you can't get better at a skill in a game because it's too chaotic. You don't know how many reps you're getting. So when it comes back to something like us, where we're trying to improve, specific qualities like maybe strength, speed, and agility, the reason why it works is because we can dose the stimulus, sets and reps. That's what sets and reps are. So we know what's going to create an overload. Playing sport, probably coming back to your question around 9. This is why 9 I think is maybe the inflection point. I'm not 100% sure. This is a bit of a stab in the dark for me, but I reckon if I usually start sport around maybe like structured sport 4 or 5
Mm.
is usually when that starts, is that's a completely new stimulus and you're growing. So you're getting new adaptations just by playing the sport. You're running a bit faster, you're doing change of directions. That's great. But it gets to a point where you've done enough of those repetitions where your body's like, oh, I can do this. I know how many reps I can tolerate. So there is no overload anymore. So the only way to get better is to create an overload by doing, say, like a structured strength conditioning program or just at least something else.
Yeah.
Maybe even just another sport. You know what I mean? Like if I'm playing football, if I just go and play basketball, that's a completely new set of skill sets. And I guess what I've noticed is like if you had to see these general kind of biases to qualities achieved, like I'd say AFL footballers get good running capacity. Rugby players get strong. Um, Basketballers get very agile. Like if you had to pull the quality
Mm.
out of each sport, sure they get a mix of everything. But if you had to go like, if I do like a fitness test, the AFL guys will be towards the top. If I do a strength test, the rugby guys will be towards the top. If I do an agility test, the basketball guys will be towards the
Yep.
top. So there are these things that get overemphasized in these sports, but how many buckets is that filling?
Mm. Um, Probably the last thing I want to get into,
Mm.
because I think we've covered a bit at across the performance side, is the last little bit
Oops,
was
I
yeah.
feel like I don't know if I've actually answered any of your questions.
No, I think we've been getting out information in a way that for me is interesting, and that's all that matters. Don't care if as long as I'm having good fun. No, the last thing I wanted to get through was just a brief touch on something like the rehabby type stuff.
Yeah,
Same idea where
yeah.
again for general population who are dealing with issues and injuries, again, I
Mm,
see the athletes as where we really want to be focusing a lot of attention on because the incentive there to perform and okay get good, be able to be available for training and games and things
mm,
is obviously so much higher than the typical general
mm,
population.
mm.
So the turnaround time from injury to wanting to correct it is so early on, whereas for the general pop, the turnaround time from injury to try and correction can be months and years down the line. And so
Yeah.
trying to get a hold of, well, how does the athlete try and turn it around as quickly as possible?
Mm,
And then how do we try and look at some of the things we can pull out that is relatively low hanging fruit that the general pop can try and get the most from? With the kind of rehab stuff that you do,
mm.
do you have a specific style or approach to rehab?
Yeah.
How do you sort of approach that domain for your athletes?
Yeah. So our philosophy is similar. I'm big on continuums. It kind of comes back to that absolutist thing. I'm not a big absolutist. I like continuums because I think everything pretty much falls on a continuum. There is
Mhm.
grey area. Stop ignoring it. I know it sucks because people love black and white, don't they? It's
Yeah,
yes
yeah,
or
yeah,
no. It's like, well,
yeah,
no, it's not life.
yeah.
Life's grey. So our continuum is injured athlete, top performing. Athlete's going to fall somewhere along that line. So we kind of purposely, I guess, recoined our physio and rehab model to reconditioning because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to recondition the athlete back to the demands of the sport. Ideally, if we can, we want to go beyond that. That's where our performance program comes into it. But ultimately, the way I view it, rehab for athletes anyway, is you're either an injured athlete trying to overcome an injury and improve your performance, or you're a performance athlete who has bumps and niggles and you're trying to just work through them. But ultimately, you're just sliding up and down the scale. It's not this binary like I'm injured and I'm not injured.
Mm.
Like I said, I come back. Performance isn't healthy. Like you can be very high perform. Oh, I don't know. Like last, do you reckon LeBron's like injury free right now?
No, what is he? He's been dealing with
Back. Yeah,
Back, is
he
it?
said, yeah, sciatica, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
said
yeah, yeah, it has,
sciatica.
yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, I don't know, find anyone that says I don't have an injury right now in any professional sport. I'd be like, you're not training hard enough. Like, I don't know. That's the only guy I could think of. It's just the nature of the beast. I mean, like even like let's say it's a occupational hazard. Like even if you're playing basketball, if you get a ball thrown at you and you catch it wrong, you break a finger. Like that's how hazardous it can be.
Yeah.
It doesn't even have to be because you did anything wrong. There is just these chaotic natures to these things. So if we're trying to bring it back to like, the Formula One analogy, what can we bring down to the general population? Is that's kind of how I view it again. Like that, I was talking about that grand scheme, that big continuum. I think this is where like ex-phys and physio kind of see it as, if you've got someone in a disease state or a chronic issue state, you're just trying to bring them back to center. You're trying to bring them back to health. That's the way I view it anyway. So it's kind of like, and why not? If they get healthy, then why not improve their performance if that's what they want to do? You know what I mean? Like if you are unfortunate enough to, I don't know, have cancer and then overcome that and go into remission and then continue to, what's to stop you? You don't have to be, you don't have to stop at just remission. You
Mm.
can continue to go forward. It kind of depends how close you are to death, really. Like you just want to get as close back to the center. Um, but some of the things, like some of the ideas that I would take away from it, from the kind of like athletic population back to like the general populations, would be, yeah, just actually not limiting yourself. And I think that can be sometimes the difference in the time scale. So I kind of get what you were saying before in regards to like the return to things, and it really obviously depends on how long you've been dealing with something. But there's a lot of people that, a lot of athletes that it does take years, and there isn't a quick turnaround because it depends on the severity, like anything. Because it also depends on what you're actually trying to get back to, and this is where sometimes general population can be a little bit easier because the goal is a lot less.
What are the types of injuries I guess people are currently coming to you guys
Yeah,
with to help try and get them back on track or back to center, as you would say?
100%. So like, it's nice when we just get. It's gonna sound funny. It's nice when we just get like grade one hamstring,
Yeah.
and it's the first one they've had. Like that's you're like, oh, cool. This is a piece of cake because it is. There's probably not too many other risk factors. It's pretty straightforward in nature, and we can probably turn it around in 3 to 4 weeks, assuming they're diligent, and do the right things, and we've got the dosage and prescription right for that individual. But and this is the nature of the beast. Like as you become more competent, you're going to get more complexity. So yeah, we probably tend to get, someone who's like, oh, I've done 3 ACLs. That's complex, man. I've done 3 ACLs and I want to go back to sport. Like I've done 3 ACLs and just I want to avoid knee arthritis. That's hard enough as it is.
Mm.
That's like you're probably going to cop that regardless. We can minimize maybe the effect of that arthritis, like as in how debilitating it potentially is. But to go beyond that and then actually want to get back to cut, pivot, jump, twist, tackle, okay, that's pretty big. it and look, to me, it comes back to this kind of performance. It's not about the talent; it's just about the ambition. I'm not going to say no. Like if you're driven enough to want to do it, while the odds might, it's kind of like the IVF stuff.
Mm.
While the odds might be incredibly low, if you want to have a crack at it, we'll have a go.
Yep.
But we also don't sit there and be like, we're going to guarantee that you're going to return.
Yeah, expectations set at
Have
that.
to set the expectations. Like, we know our limitations. We're human. We'll make mistakes. We won't get it right. We also know that no one knows. Even the best of the best. And like, our guys have, we're constantly upskilling. Like, it's such a big value and principle of ours is to like
Mm.
learn and grow, learn and grow, learn and grow. And we try and learn and grow from the absolute best in the world. And we know that they are even limited. No one's solved the problem.
Yeah.
Well, if you do, tell me, please.
Yeah, but then you know that they're a snake oil
You know
salesman.
it's bullshit.
Yeah. Which is as we went back to the original point about cult-like icon figures and gurus and such, a lot of it at the end of the day, you have to take it as it's probably partly marketing. And if there's seriousness to the belief that it solved absolutely everything with a singular problem, yeah, again, you're being fooled.
Well, I don't know about you, but do you believe that like everything works to a certain extent?
Everything works.
Everything works to a certain extent.
I think everything has the potential to work.
Yeah.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, even if you're selling the Fugazi,
Yeah.
some elements of it, like some of the functional pattern stuff probably would work.
Yeah.
not saying all of it'll work. Majority of it probably won't. But it depends what you're trying to do. Like, do I think that kind of system would create an elite level athlete? No, no, because I think it's missing too many buckets. Does he use an elite? I think he uses like an elite level wrestler as his kind of like claim to fame. Pretty certain that guy was also, was already like awesome.
Yeah, prior to.
I think he was already very good. That's what we got to be super careful of as practitioners. Just you
Yeah.
got to be humble.
Yeah.
It's like, I obviously love when, you have success with an athlete and they turn around and I was like, hey, so like, it's all you. And you're like, well, no, it's not. I just guided you through this process. You did it. You did the work. You take all this.
Yeah, it's a very fair
Not,
point.
don't get me wrong, I respect it because I like it.
Yeah,
We all like a little bit of
100%.
respect and admiration and success, and we're glad to be a part of it. But ultimately, just the slither. We're just the supplement. I think the other thing I want to throw out there is luck.
Massively.
Like, I don't think you realize how influential luck is. Like, both ways. Like, if you're in sport, right, and you step on a foot, bang, ankle goes over. Doesn't matter how good your ankle proprioception is. What I would say about that, though, is if you do have really good training, maybe the severity of that injury would reduce significantly. So we're not in the game. Injury prevention is a big, big word, right? I don't think that's the word. I think it's damage minimization. You can't prevent injuries. Like, we're playing level 1 sports, man. Like I said, you go out for a basketball and you get tunneled and you land on your shoulder. You just cannot replicate those forces in any other scenario.
Yeah, yep.
You know what I mean? Like, if you're, I don't know, 2 meters off the ground and you land directly on your AC joint, you're gonna break your collarbone.
Yeah.
By design, by the way. That's what it's there to do. It's there to break.
Yeah.
Because if it doesn't, more worse stuff happens. Same with the knee. I'd say like it probably breaks in that way, like an ACL, for example. I think it breaks in that way by design. Because I don't think we're necessarily meant to do all the things that we do. I think we should run, cut, pivot, all that kind of stuff from an evolutionary point of view. But should we do it, 3 times a week for 8 months straight? Should we do it when someone else cannons into me?
Yeah, we didn't evolve to deal with those forces on a daily
Not on
or
a regular basis. Like, sure, you go out for a hunt, maybe you hunt for a couple of days, but then you probably, like, humans are lazy. Like, we're lazy by nature.
but as you say, that is what defines like high performance. High performance is
That's why I'm saying it's not
pushing
healthy. Yeah, it's
everything
not
to the
healthy,
limit,
guys.
which means at the limit, the likelihood of failure is you're very close
We're
to.
going to push past it. And look,
Yeah.
I come back to my thing, like the best ability is availability is like, that's really what we're trying to do. I think that is better for performance than anything else. It's just like, if you are just available to play your sport, I've done my job.
Yep.
Like, it doesn't matter how high you jump, how much you squat, how much you deadlift, how much you bench press, if you can't play.
That this is the one gripe I have about clients when they ask about should I go for, should I run this weekend or should I avoid playing X game or something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And my commentary is usually something around the line of, if I'm just considering pure injury prevention, which I'm now going to reaffirm to or change to injury resiliency, maybe
Yeah,
something like that,
yeah.
I would then go, then it would be your safest bet would be to not to. But if your goal is to, achieve something or go for it, then that should be although that's like the trying to be safe mum and dad physio idea
Mm,
about what you should do.
mm.
But if you've got a different idea of what you want to achieve, then okay. And look, you might be able to get away with it 90% of the time as well. But you can't take into account all the chaos that goes on.
It's a game of chance. It's how do you like gambling?
Yeah, exactly. What's your risk tolerance?
Yeah, because I don't know either, to be honest. Like, yeah, okay, you could go for a run and could be all good. But I reckon the chances are low. So it kind of depends what risk are you willing to take.
Yeah.
I have thought about this because I do like the idea of objectifying it a little bit more, of like actually working out the probability when that conversation comes up. When someone says, hey, I want to go for a run, and let's say you're thinking like they're not even close to prepared to run. What are the chances that they're actually going to get through this run? Because that might make a difference. Because you just saying that, I don't know. I don't know if it's impactful enough.
Mm.
But if I'm like, hey, and I can prove it, there is a 99% chance that this is going to be unsuccessful. Do you think they would still go and do the thing? That's a pretty risk tolerant individual. If they like 1% I can get through, yes, let's go.
Well, that's why you look at the Goggins in the world who will run on, and the Cam Hanes, and they're on broken feet and whatever, and it's like, there's limits, or there's sometimes not so much limits on what you can achieve. This is where I come back to a little bit of what you said before, which is, if you want to have a crack, like, I'm also don't like the idea of being the person that gets in the way of someone really wanting to have a crack,
Ah,
but I will say for sure, I don't think it's a good idea. I think it's
yeah,
likely to fail.
yeah,
But if you really fucking want to
yeah,
do it,
yeah.
like, why would me saying something stop you?
I'm huge on autonomy because again, it comes back to
Yeah,
that coaching and building a relationship and a connection, and ultimately that's what it comes down to. Like you'll see it'll get tested in that scenario. Like if someone adheres your advice, it means you've probably built a pretty strong relationship and trust, which is a good thing. If they go against it, again, I don't hate on them. They've made their own decision. They can. You, you're an autonomous individual. You're allowed to
yeah,
make your own decisions. What it suggests to me is like, well, I need to work harder.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I need to work harder on building this trust and relationship because I would prefer if they did listen to me because I think I'm more right than them. But I think you also got to accept maybe you're not.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. That's why fallibilism, everyone's prone to errors.
Everyone's prone to errors. And
Yeah,
look, I've seen it. There is sometimes where you're just like, man, like this is not going to work out. And they go and do it and they're completely fine.
yeah.
And it's a bit of a told you so moment. It's like, yeah, I know, man, but it was a 50-50.
Yeah,
Sometimes it does go heads.
yeah, yeah. I've had one of those. It was a lady who had, I think it was an ankle injury, and just from the testing that we did, and she had some Ironman or half
Yep.
Ironman like the following
Yeah.
weekend, and I was like, this is not a good idea for you to
Yeah.
complete this.
Yeah.
Like, this is, you're really struggling with X, Y, and Z too.
Yeah.
It's a lot of
Yeah.
pain. Like,
Yeah.
doing all this is not a good idea.
Yeah.
Did it anyway? I was like, oh, it was all right, like sore, but
I was going to say, what was the trade off? Because then that's where I go to. It's just to talk about the trade offs. And look, as long as they're acceptable, if they're okay with the trade, so like you mentioned Cam Haines and like David Goggins, right?
yep,
Well, they're just happy to trade off.
yep.
Again, it's not healthy. You can't tell me that's healthy to run on a broken foot.
Yeah, I mean, Goggins' knees are cooked.
He's
So,
cooked,
yeah,
but that's his trade off.
yep.
He's happy with that.
Power
I
to him.
think. I think he's happy with
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Well, he
yeah,
continues to do it, so there's got to be a level of satisfaction there. I'm sure we both do it. I know I do things sometimes in my training that I'm like, I shouldn't be doing this.
yeah, yeah, 100%.
We all do it. Like we all sometimes don't even take our own advice. So that's where, but I use that as a tool of empathy.
Yeah,
Like, oh, I get it. I get what you're trying to do. I also like to go after it and get it. But you just need to know where the line is,
yeah.
or just accept. I'm okay with that. Like if you're willing to run the risk, just accept the
Yeah,
consequences that will come with it.
yeah,
And if you're okay, and look, to be honest, that conversation is better to have because if it does go wrong, it turns around better for everyone.
yeah, yeah,
It means
100%.
that they accept it better, you accept it better as a practitioner, and we move forward.
Yeah. Any final? We've hopped around a little bit, and I appreciate again the time as well. Any final comments to perhaps
Mm,
athletes out there
mm,
looking to maybe improve their performance or come back from injury,
mm.
that they might be worthwhile them hearing before we wrap up?
Yeah, I think if it is really important to you, get the guidance, get the help. It's an investment. If it is really important to you, if it's not, that's okay. Like just you can work it out yourself. But I guess yeah, what I see it a lot is it's pretty accessible to do it yourself now. You know what I mean? Like this, we're not selling knowledge anymore. There's ChatGPT, there's Google. Like the information is out there. It's how you apply it is what makes the difference. And then also the guidance of when things go wrong, because things will go wrong. There's going to be chaos. There's going to be challenges. There's going to be complexities. So, like as a basic example, you can type in a ChatGPT, and if you're really good at prompting, it could spit out a pretty good program. But is it going to watch you do that program? is going to watch you perform those movements. Is it then going to give you feedback? And look, this might be coming, guys. So we've got to work pretty quickly on, finding a way to stay in business. But as for now, we don't have that. But nothing's giving you feedback. Nothing's telling you like, or you can't go back to the program and be like, hey, I'm actually feeling a bit sore today. I want to do something differently. That's where coaching comes into it. There's also the complexity around of like we are constantly like adapting and maladapting. And that comes back to that fitness versus fatigue, right? In that there are days where you feel like shit, but you can still train. And you can still train well. There's days where you feel like shit and you can play and play well. There's days where you feel really good and have a shit session. So what does that tell us? There's something more, there's more to it than just how you feel. It's really how you perceive it and what you make of it. That's also pretty big in the rehab space as well, I think. How you perceive this injury and the process, I think really relates to people's success. Like if they truly believe that they can get back, they will do some pretty magical things. If they don't and there's doubt and a lack of confidence, I think despite any kind of positive physical changes, that can still be one of the biggest limiting factors. So to summarize it, it's like get support. If it means a lot to you, get the support because it makes a significant difference.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Anywhere where people can look up you guys or,
Yeah.
or find you?
Yeah, Ludus Sports Performance. I'd probably say the biggest one is Instagram for us. So I think it's Ludus_sports_performance. Do our Facebook, but
Whereabouts are you guys based?
my rate.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
Man, as I said, really appreciate your time. I like the fact that we sort of jumped around